Blessings, everybody. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Let me set up. Let me set up. Let me set up. I am excited. We're about to get started on this Wisconsin Revival Rally. And I'm just setting up, you guys, and I am ready for a good time. Good time. We got some other guests that might be joining us. Uh, uh, I'm just waiting to see exactly what they're going to do. Um, but we do have some guests going to join us tonight, this beautiful day. Um, so you guys come on in. And guess what? She's back. The constitutional queen herself is in the house. Hello there.
Hi.
How are you? Long time. It felt like a lifetime.
Yeah, I know. It has been a little bit.
So tell everybody what's been up with you.
Well, my husband and I just got done with our last shift at the fair this week. So we were out there with our county party, just sharing the good stuff and helping. And well, we passed out a ton of icy pops for the kids and free popcorn and stuff. And it was so fun because we had like 4 booths worth of space, and right kitty corner to us was the Democrats' little one booth with a couple people in masks. And so it was just nice to see that contrast because we were alive and we were active, and that was fun. But yeah, otherwise just kind of getting through the summer. It's been really hot, so we're staying out of the heat as much as possible, and just enjoying family time. And yeah.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, that's Russ. I was wondering who's saying hello,
Ah.
but that's Rustin. So so what's new and exciting from the Jackson County Board?
Jackson County Board. Well, we had a break in July, so we're meeting back not next week, but the week after for our August board meeting. Going through all the finances and stuff, so you can pray for wisdom and discernment there, because this is when we set up the budget for the next year, and just trying to figure out how we're allocating funding and stuff like that. We've got some ideas in thank you, Stacy. We've got some ideas in the works for a couple of us conservatives on the board, trying to work on election integrity and those types of things. So that stuff I'm keeping under wraps right now because we don't have all the details worked out, but we'll let you know once we know if it goes through. So yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, as you and I both know, August 9th is so close. We can smell it.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, have you been watching things?
Watching like, well, I've been watching all of the debates. I I spent the painfully excruciating 2 hours in the Democrat debate listening to your guys' opponents. I did it so you didn't have to.
That is so kind of you.
Oh yeah, it was you should, well, you ask my kids, they'll laugh at me because the whole time I would pause it and I'd be like, oh, I can't believe they just said that, and then I would rant about what they said that was wrong and all of that stuff. So I did enjoy coming back with my own arguments and what I would have said in the debates if I'd been there.
Okay.
So,
Now,
yeah.
ours really wasn't a debate. It was a question and answer. They didn't allow us to really debate.
Yeah.
I would have loved to if they would have let it be a real debate. And you can't ask a question, have somebody answer it for a minute, and then a 30-second uh, a 30-second respond. You know
Yeah.
that's not
there's not enough time to actually get into the details, because I noticed that, you know, a lot of the responses were very general and as quick as they could get it out, and so it felt like they were using bullet points that they'd already prepared ahead of time. So yeah.
Right. And so, but you know, Tuesday is going to be very interesting because of the fact that there's so much going on right now. We're hearing
Mm-hmm.
people saying they're not going to vote if their candidate doesn't come out on top.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen candidates say they're not going to support if they don't come out on top.
Yep.
And I'm wondering now, will they plan it to get people to follow them, to stir it up, and to
Create more division?
create more division?
You know, I don't know if we'll ever really know. That you think about how politics is run nowadays, there are so many loopholes, and it's like a roller coaster ride when you're going, you know, when you go up the track and you're going up, and it's like a dark tunnel, right? And you come
Yep.
out and you have no idea where you just were, but all of a sudden you're just going down as fast as you possibly can, and it's twisting and turning, and by the time you get out, you're just like, what just happened? I think until things change, until there's more transparency in our politics, I don't know if we'll ever really fully understand all of the inner workings of who's talking to who and who's, you know, it just, I don't know, because we could, and this is the thing that I'm trying to wrap my mind around, is we could go into hours and hours of just trying to get all of those answers figured out, and just really, like, you know, get into, you know, following all of these trails and all of them, where the money's coming from and all of this stuff. And I'm seeing it on this text group that I'm on, where they're just constant speculation, constant theories being tossed out there, and, oh, we found this information, here's a screenshot, and all of this stuff. And, you know, I want to narrow my focus to what is really important, and that is what my role is, what my mission and purpose is in getting transparency back into our government. And it's going to be a long, hard battle. We're not going to see it in the next, you know, 2 years, 5 years, maybe even 20 years, you know, but I think the fight has to be taken in each person's place, right? Like, I'm in the county board, and so I'm going to be looking at, where's this funding coming from the outside, and how can we get it to stop? You know, how much, somebody asked how much federal funding our county, we're the executive finance committee is meeting, I believe, next week. So they're, you know, that's where we're going to find out where, you know, what they're expecting from the federal government. So you know, we could go on and on about how many people are plants and how many people are, you know, talking to other people in the politics. And I just wonder how much of that is taking us out of the main focus, and that is to bring God back into our country.
And, you know, I'm so glad you said it like that, you know, because you can tell, you know, sometimes our mouth say one thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But our actions say something else. So
Yeah.
we know if a person really belong to God or not. Those of us that are connected to God, we know, because in Matthew chapter 7, it tells us not to judge, but also in that same chapter it says you'll know them by their fruit.
Yeah.
So you're not to judge, but you ought to be a fruit inspector.
Yeah, so this is the thing. When it talks about you're not to judge, it says, judge not lest you be judged, right? By the same standard that you, and then it goes into, by the same standard that you judge others, so you too will be judged. So what he's talking about there is, you are going to hold, if you start judging other people, if you make a bold statement and truth claims about others, you better be willing to back it up with truth claims about yourself. And that's really where it comes down to. It's not saying don't ever judge people, because we're human beings. That's an automatic thing. We judge people, but we're judging based on, like you said, the fruit that you see. What is their fruit? How are they living their lives? Are their words lining up with their actions? And if we're judging in any other standard other than that, then yeah, we're going to be called to account for it, because we can't meet any other standard other than that.
That's right. And so when we look at it, you know, the thing about it, like, let's go back to where you made the comment of what did you say? Oh, focus, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
We losing our focus because now it's not about the kids.
Yeah.
Now it's not about the sex trafficking. It's not
Mhm.
about our veterans. It's not about our children education anymore. It's
Yeah.
about a person that most people, if you watch them, they have made their candidates God and Savior. And 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 so if that person don't win, it's like, oh, our life is over.
Yeah.
So you know, so the thing that we look at is that as we move forward, right?
Yeah.
We have to look at it as the future of this country. We
Yeah.
have to look at it what kind of country we gonna leave our children.
Mhm.
You know, one part of the campaign will I'll be so glad is over is the pro Second Amendment.
Mm.
And the reason I say that is because they think it's about carrying a gun and going
Mhm.
hunting.
Yeah. It's not.
And I'm sitting there like, God, I can't take it no more. I'm like, God, would y'all quit trying to use the Second Amendment for hunting?
Yeah.
It doesn't go together,
No.
you know. So I be sitting there like, God, what? Please,
Well,
let's get
well,
this.
I mean, you think about it, most of the candidates nowadays that are running, they say they're pro Second Amendment. They are pro gun, pro God, pro, pro life, all of these things. But then when you dig down into it, you ask them, what is the purpose of the right to keep and bear arms? And they'll say, oh, for a militia. No. That's the reason why that was put in the Constitution. That idea that for the need of a great militia. I'm trying. Hold on. Where did my Constitution go? Oh, I've got copies all over the place and I can't find it. I want to read it correctly because the concept of it was it's not the militia is the ultimate thing, but the reason why was because of what they knew governments could do. And so this idea of it's to go hunting, or it's to keep and bear arms for the purpose of a militia, and to defend. No, it goes far deeper than that. Oh, I've got a book with multiple documents in it, and so I'm having a difficult time with finding. There it is. Okay, so Bill of Rights. Here we go. Where are you? A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, so they're talking about the well-regulated militia, right? But
Yep.
what is that next part? Being necessary to the security of a free state, right?
Okay.
The ultimate goal of keeping and bearing arms is so that we the people within our homes and our persons and our possessions have the right to protect and to defend what we have, what our property, our persons, our families. It's the right to defend against enemies, foreign and domestic. And we're the biggest issue is the domestic enemy. That's our government right now.
Right.
And if you look throughout history, anytime a government took away the right to bear arms, the right to keep and bear arms from the people, what happened? Within a few decades, within a few years, that people were no longer free. And so this whole idea that it's for it's for our right to hunt, it's for our right to, they don't go deep enough, because and beyond that, they don't go into the idea of, even if they took that Second Amendment out of the Constitution, even if nobody in government respected that Second Amendment, that it does not take away our right, because that right was not given by our Constitution. It was not given by our government. It was given by God. So this argument that, that we're keeping and bearing arms for the purpose of basically our pleasure. That is what all of this, that's what got us into this mess. We are a pleasure seeking country now. We are hedonistic. We are consumers. We're in this mess because
our greed.
because we took the Constitution as a license not to protect and defend our freedoms, but as a license to do whatever the heck we want when we want to. And when did that happen? When we took God out of our public square.
That is, and you are absolutely right. When we go back and we start to look as when did we start to remove God and when did everything start to shift, right?
Yeah.
And from when it comes from government, where it comes from treating our neighbors, whatever thing that you took God out of.
Yeah.
And so when we look at, hold on, I got to adjust my.
Who said this? The Facebook user, the Bill of Rights protects you. That actually is completely incorrect. The Bill of Rights was written for the government's sake, to remind the government that we, the people, are watching them. And the moment they step over the line on any of our human rights, we hold them accountable. That was what the Bill of Rights was for. It was not to protect us, because the Bill of Rights doesn't give us our rights. It just tells the government what they're not supposed to touch. So it's not a protection for we the people. It's a reminder and a threat against the government. You take these away and we will come after you, because regardless of whether you take them out of the Constitution, those are still our rights.
Right. So
give me 1 second.
So you guys, let us know what county you guys are coming in from. I'm welcome back, Constitutional Queen.
I'm on fire today. I had a conversation with a Democrat who just came over to fight, and I'm just like, oh, I got my boxing gloves on.
Hey.
You gotta say hi.
Hi.
You gonna say hi?
You're awake.
Yes, I am, and I'm.
How are you?
Yeah, my kids know how passionate I get.
I know, and that's me. I'm very passionate about everything, about everything that I'm running and what I'm seeing traveling this state, right? For so long. And and I said in the church today, I said in my message today, I said two things we forgot as body of Christ.
Yeah.
We forgot we belong to a kingdom of God. And we forgot that the king is in charge, not us.
Yeah.
And then what we forgot that we forgot we forgot that we does not live in a democracy.
Yep.
This is not a democracy.
Yep.
It's a constitutional republic. It's not a democracy. And so a lot of people don't know that. And when you forget what you founded on, then we can do anything.
Yep.
And so like I'm trying to wake the church up, because I talk about the kingdom of God and then I talk about politics.
Yep.
And I'm trying to wake the church up because what people that go to church doesn't realize is that politics touch every area of your life.
Yeah.
Every single area. There's not an area of your life that politics is not involved in.
Yep.
From medical to your food, to your gas, to your house, to your business. It doesn't matter. Anything that you're doing, politics got his hand somewhere in it.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that, then you can believe, you'll start to believe anything. Like in Milwaukee, they said, well, the business is leaving because of the Republicans. I said, no, the business is leaving Milwaukee because of the Democrats' regulations.
Yeah.
The fees and the regulations. I mean, you got to go get a permit to put a water tank in your own house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or you can only buy certain light bulbs or for your house, or certain types of toilets with enough water to flush, and not too much though, right? It's everything in our life is regulated by the government, and we didn't even realize that was happening because we just slowly but surely gave up more and more of our rights. We handed it over to the government and said, you can manage it better. Well, how's that working for us?
Exactly. And then what end up happening? What end up happening also is that when we look at it, right, and we look at how people are running for office, telling us, "Oh, we're we got one says they took your rights in 2020." I'm like, no, they didn't take your rights in 2020.
Yeah.
2020 with the shutdown just let you know how much they took.
Yeah, exactly. And then 2020 was also us going, oh, here, take some more.
So when we're looking at it and we're saying that, oh my God, is this really happening to us?
Yeah.
And they was like, no, it been happened to you. You just we've been in a spider web for a long time. We just didn't realize we was in the web.
Yeah. And that's who said that. We were talking about the is that Rustin who said the Bill of Rights protects you and then said so much for that working? That's why. Not because the government is doing exactly what the government does when nobody's watching, right? Because of us, we the people, for the last 100 years have given up ground over and over and over again. We the church have given up ground over and over and over again. It's on us. That is our fault, and we are going to be spending the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 decades getting that back. But if we actually get in the fight, and that's the issue. The Democrats understand that. We talk about them as if they're all stupid and ignorant. They understand that politics is in every aspect of our life. That is the governance of the people. That's what politics means.
Well, let me do this, because I don't know if you knew what took place, because that's not in your area, right? The Ron Johnson vote doesn't count. Do it bother you guys or no?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Ron Johnson.
Does he bother me?
No, I'm saying you don't vote for Ron Johnson over there, right?
We do. Yeah, you do. Ron Johnson is our senator, our senator.
Okay, so well, let me tell you what happened. The Democrats who's running against him had a white millionaire drop out of the race, right? Endorsed a minority, got out and endorsed the minority. Then the white woman who was Secretary of State, Treasurer, drops out the race and endorsed the minority.
Yeah.
And then guess what they were singing?
What?
We need to be unified. See, the Democrats know how to play it.
Yeah.
Even though they have some in-house fighting, they know how to do it publicly.
But they're united under the idea that they understand that government, that politics is a central part of any nation, because that's how they figure out how to influence the culture, how the culture influences the government. They know that it's all interconnected. Why do you think they worked so hard to get the church out of it? Because they understood that that was the church's role, was to stay in government, to stay in politics and get involved and make sure that we were a free nation. The people who came over here in the 1600s, in the 1800s, all of the religious freedom that they were fighting for, their goal was to make disciples of the nations, starting with America. What does that mean? We narrow it down to this idea that to disciple a nation is to bring Christianity to it. That's the beginning. We bring Christianity into the nation, and then we disciple by teaching them everything God commanded.
Yes.
So why aren't we out there in the public square teaching everything that God commanded? What did God command? Look through. we Christians don't even know our Bibles because we think that it's just, oh, teach them about Christ and the cross, and then you stop there, and you know everything else goes, you start in the pews. We're not even getting discipled in our own pews right now. We don't have pastors who are out there, the black robed regiment. I'm not saying all pastors, because obviously you're one of them, but we don't, as a general rule in America, we don't have the black robed regiment anymore fighting on the front lines in our culture, in our communities. Where are they?
21st Black Robe Regiment right here.
Woo! We need more of you.
You know, and you absolutely right. They know what it takes, and they know what they need to do. So what do? They make friends to the pastors, and they say, you know, that word, for example, reverend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Al Sharpton, I ain't never heard a sermon, but that word reverend got him to get so many people to follow him.
Oh yeah.
I never heard Jesse Jackson do a sermon, but the word reverend got people to follow.
Well, okay, so I will come back a little bit on that, because every time they get up to speak in front of their crowds of followers, they're preaching a sermon. It has nothing to do with Christ.
Okay, well, we'll give them. Well, let's just say they delivering a message. It's not the message of Christ.
There you go.
They delivering a message, but it's not the message of Christ. And the thing about it, though, when we look at it right now, even the Republicans really don't want pastors to preach a message.
I know.
To get involved, because why? They will preach against them, because they're not lining up with Christ.
Yep.
So can you imagine if the pastors do preach? You know, I did a message up north, and I said the problem we have is you've been voting D and you've been voting R, but you've been voting for the wrong R.
Yep.
You've been voting R for Republican, but you didn't vote R for righteousness.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is why we lose so many times, because we don't vote for righteous people.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's what I was talking to one of Tim Michael's supporters was. I asked them, and you know me and my interrogation techniques. I went deep. I was like, why am I not seeing? Why isn't God the first thing and the last thing he talks about? Why isn't his faith in God, his faith driving every point home on what he's fighting for? Because I don't see it. I didn't see it in the debate. I don't see it on any of his literature. I'm not seeing this strong faith-filled man. Why are we supposed to vote for somebody who has not made God the absolute central focus of everything he does, including his politics? If you don't have God at the center of absolutely everything you're doing, and I'm preaching to myself too, because this is a reminder how I have to give myself for everything. If I don't have God at the center of every part of my life, including on the county board, then I am going to fall the moment I have people influencing me on the outside, telling me, oh, you can't bring your faith into this. You can't talk about God here, right? What does it say about being ashamed to be, if you're ashamed before men?
He said, if you're ashamed of me and my word, then I am ashamed of you.
Exactly.
So the thing about that is, I mean, we got people that know how to use the scriptures, but you know what? They never say what church they go to. They don't even have an endorsement letter from their pastors. Mm-hmm. Their action is not representing Christ. It's not representing Christ. It's not representing God. It's not representing the commandments that we're supposed to live by. Yeah. You know, and one time somebody said, well, why are you always talking about if somebody lie, you're going to expose them? I said, that's our job. Yeah. Our job is to expose. We're the light.
To expose the truth, right? Yes. To bring the truth to light and expose the darkness. That's our whole, that's part of the Great Commission. That's part of discipling. That's part of when it says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. That's Jesus telling us, you expose the darkness by pointing them to me.
That's right. And Scott, you know what? Reggie White was not ashamed of his faith in God. that when they asked him a question about homosexuality, he went off.
Yep.
You know, and this is what he's saying, because he said, if you're ashamed of me,
Yep.
and everybody that's running for office says, praise God.
Yeah.
But do they stand on the word? Because there's two parts in that. Shame on me, shame on my word.
Yep.
And they don't stand on the word.
Yeah.
When,
when the only way that you're getting your Bible knowledge from is by sitting in front of a pastor or a reverend every Sunday morning, and that's the only time you spend in it, really actually spend in it. Who did Paul praise in the New Testament? He praised the Bereans because they listened to the word in their church services, right? They listened to the word at their meetings, but then they came home and they studied it for themselves. They read it cover to cover and they knew it, so that when they could come back to those messages, they could actually sit in those sermons and say, Pastor, you're wrong there. That's not what he's saying, right? Because they had to know it in their own. I have hidden my word thy word in my heart, so that I might not sin against you, right? It's not saying the church has hidden the word in their heart. It's saying I myself have hidden God's word in my heart so that I don't sin against you. It's yes, there is the corporate body, there is the body of Christ, but it is also an individual thing. We are not supposed to be trusting every word that comes out of our pastor's mouth without understanding it for ourselves. Same with our government. And it's not that who said this? If you hate the government, then stop voting red and blue. Who do you think? We don't hate the government. The government, if you're talking about government in general, is good for human flourishing, but it also needs to be restrained by human beings as well. We cannot just hand over power to people that don't have character and integrity and expect that our government is going to do anything good. So it's not that we hate government as a
matter of fact
idea.
Let me jump in there right quick. Why would you hate a system?
Yeah.
Because the government is only a system.
Yep.
It's the people you allow to govern. It's the people you allow to govern that system. So we don't hate the system. You just voted in a person because they was red or blue. So when you did that, you voted for the lesser of two evils because you didn't take time to find the righteous. You didn't take time to get those people who say they really love God, whose lifestyle lines up with it because they got work behind it to support. So we just supported somebody that was red or blue because, and now people say, well, we hate the government. No, you can't hate a system. You got to hate the ones that govern the system. Just like you can't hate a gun, you got to hate the person behind the gun. You can't hate a car, you got to hate the person who's driving the car. Because the car and the gun and the system only does whatever whoever govern it tell it to do.
Yep. Whoever has the reins and the power, right? That's who we have to fight back against, not the actual system itself. Now they are abusing the system, because if you look at the Constitution, that system was set up in place as one of the greatest forms of government ever established by human beings. And as fallible as human beings are, we managed to set up a system that could work if we don't abuse it. If we don't allow people in office who are going to take that power and use it for their own means and ways. That's what we have to fight back against.
Right. And then we got to understand, if you really, really understood the Constitution and you really, really studied your Bible, you'll realize that, the Constitution came out of the Bible. They wanted us to govern ourselves according to the government and the principles of God.
Exactly. Stacey, you're right, though. We do hate certain systems, right? Certain world systems that are anti-God and anti-freedom and liberty. We do hate communism. We do hate socialism, which is why we should be fighting to preserve the system that our founders set in place. So
now let's be the advocate for a second.
Okay. Wait, devil's advocate or
yeah, I didn't want to use the word devil, but let's just use the devil advocate for a second.
Okay.
Let's say a righteous person, a person that is Holy Ghost filled, righteous, was governing over the communism. Would it still be bad?
Yeah.
And tell us why.
Well, because the whole system itself is immoral and anti-God. So you could have a righteous person trying to reform it, like a lot of righteous people are trying to reform the public school, right? But the system itself is built on anti-God and anti-biblical principles. And so there is only so much that a righteous person can do within that system to mitigate the damage, but it doesn't actually stop the ultimate logical outworking of that system. So in communism is set up with a humanistic anti-God framework. What can you do with that framework except to tear it down? Because we tear down false idols. Think about the Israelites, right? When the judges came in or the kings came in, and it said in their little bios in is it Kings or Chronicles, where it said, and they did not tear down the high places. Right. So they were righteous. It said they were righteous kings, but they left the high places open. That gives the devil a foothold into the godly system that should be set in place. Right.
Right.
So that's why you could be as righteous a man as you can possibly humanly be, and you still cannot sit at the head of a communist or a socialist or a Marxist system and think that it's going to work, because ultimately the logical outworking of that system is anti-God. And so then your righteousness doesn't overcome the anti-God principles.
And I'm so glad you answered that the way you did, because I might have had to come through the screen. Because most
you didn't honestly think I'd say yes, you could fix that.
Well, not really. But the thing about it is, this is how the church are being messed up.
Yeah.
Because they think, oh, well, we can put somebody not in that kind of system. Yep. Now, if you put them in this government system that we have in America, oh, yes, because everything's trickled down. But you cannot go into an anti-God system and thinking it's going to, you're going to be able to influence, because the stuff that's in there that deals with, how should I say this? Some human self-pleasure. Okay. You're gonna get swallowed up.
Yeah.
Because of the way it's designed. And the reason I wanted you to say that, because you got to remember, you got churches that's thinking communism is good.
Yeah. Well, because they're taking the words of Jesus and twisting and turning them and taking them out of context to say, oh, look at how Jesus on earth was talking about fighting for the poor and the oppressed and the needy. And right, they're taking those words and twisting it into a humanistic doctrine that has no focus on Christ's message anymore. He wasn't saying, oh yeah, set up a communal system and everybody's equal and gets all of their, we redistribute the wealth, because it talks about the Acts 2 church, right? They bring that up. The Acts 2 church, they gave up everything. They gave of what they had to others in need, right? But they take it out of the context of the culture that they were in at that point in time. What was happening at that point in time? They were getting massive persecution. And so there were people who lost everything. And the church was the only resource for those people who lost everything in this situation. And they were telling them, you guys, in order to stay strong and grow this new covenant thing, this new thing that Christ brought to earth, we need to let go of all of these barriers that were once holding us in place. They were a class system, right? There was the poor, and there was the very poor, and there was the very rich. And so the ideals of that system at the time were the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And right. What Christ he was turning everything upside down, these world systems. He was saying, no, that is not how we do this. You be generous with what you've been given. You've been given much, so you're expected, much is expected of you. There are others who've been given little. They're supposed to, right? We pray for, is it in the Proverbs or in the Psalms where it talks about I pray that you give me just enough so that I don't steal, but not too much so that I become rich and don't need you anymore, right? It's that concept. But that's not a socialist thing, because the socialist Marxist thing, it takes human power and human elitism and says, we're going to decide for you. We, the government, are going to decide for you what equal looks like, and we're going to take the wealth, and we're going to take your property, and we're going to take all of this stuff because you don't have the right to own this stuff. It never said, Christ never said that. In fact, it throughout the Bible, it talks about human rights. And so communism basically takes the government and makes the government the arbiter of what is right and good and wrong. And the government then tells us what rights we can and cannot have. That is not a Christian principle at all.
I know. First, I want to say, Pastor Ken, thank you for having me in Luck, Wisconsin. You have been an amazing host. I thank God for you, and hopefully I can get back up there to see you guys again. I had a blessed time. Now, I'm not going to put all of this up there, but Russ, let me say this to you. Racism and division is not just in America.
Yeah.
If you read the Bible, there was racism in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
The Gentiles, the Samaritans, nobody wanted to deal with those people. That's racism.
Yeah, this is not a uniquely American issue. So we can have the reservations, and we can take the reservations away, and we're still going to have racism. You want to know why? Because we have taken God out of our culture. We've taken his higher moral standard out of our culture. And that more than anything, if we had God in our culture, we wouldn't have a need for reservations. We wouldn't have, and I'm not saying we have a need for reservations now, but those types of things, those tribal things that divide us, wouldn't be necessary or needed, or the government wouldn't be telling us who gets to be here and who gets to be here, and how we integrate. And we wouldn't have needed desegregation laws, because we would have remembered God said all are equal under him, right?
That's right.
And the founders of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence stated that as a self-evident truth. So if we had God in our culture, in our politics, in every area of our life, if God was the central focus, if we bowed down to our higher moral authority, we wouldn't have racial division and stuff. Unfortunately,
well, we got more than, and I said this at church today, it's more than just racism. Every last one of us are prejudiced. Every last one of us are prejudiced. And you probably say, well, how? Because some of us won't date short people. We only date tall people. Some people, right? Some won't date heavy people. They only date skinny people. That's prejudice.
Okay. So prejudice to me is when you're right in a general sense, because prejudice is basically just you have a bias against a certain unchangeable attribute of another human being, right? Like I did not want to marry somebody shorter than me. I wanted him to be tall, where he could rest his head on, or his chin on my shoulder or on my head. I wanted that feeling of protection and safety, and I didn't think I'd get that with a short guy. But the prejudice is wrong when you are using that as the basis to judge others. You're using their immutable characteristics to judge them and put them into boxes and treat them as different. I'm not going to treat short guys as bad guys, right? You just ain't
gonna talk to them.
I'm just physically attracted to taller guys, and so I married a taller man, right? But that did not. If I had met a man who was a godly man and who was a man of character and who pursued me relentlessly, and he was 2 inches shorter than me or 2 feet shorter than me, I probably still would have gone for him, even though that prejudice was there, right?
But you would have been like, now, God, is this really what?
I might have asked a few questions, yes.
Okay, because you would have been like, God, you know how I like him, so is this really what you give? Yeah. I mean, we all have that in us, right? Yeah. And and that's just an individual's purpose. I mean, not purpose, but. Yes.
We discriminate on multiple levels, but it's when the discrimination becomes the tool that we use to segregate people into boxes, to put them into different tribes, and to keep them from ourselves. And we use that to not love them the way Christ asked us to love the world. That's when those things go wrong. And that's why we have racism. That's why we have slavery in multiple countries. That's, those things are because we are in opposition to God. We are using using God's gifts and his blessings in our lives to use them as weapons against others.
And that's why Jesus sent the disciples away when he talked to the woman at the well.
Yeah.
Why? Because he already knew they was racist.
Oh yeah, they would have hindered that meeting.
Oh yeah, we don't talk to them, and because they consider them dogs, they consider, so
not worthy of sitting at the master's table.
Right. You always got it. If you watch a karate movie, you see racism, Chinese and Japanese.
Yeah.
It's like, come on now, it ain't. It's not just here. We just want to linger on it and bite on that bone long enough. And okay, yeah, we're supposed to be the melting pot, but we're not melting together because we remove God out of the way. So when you move God out of the way, you can't melt together. So now you just got glumps here and glumps here. And glumps
how do you? I honestly, you want to ask how in any other worldview there is no way that we could have become at all a melting pot in America. Think about that. I mean, in every other nation, when America was beginning, in every other nation, the religious battles between the denominations were hot and deadly, right? Catholics versus Protestants, Episcopalians versus Anglicans, and just go through the history of the church in Europe, in the West, before America came into play. There was no melting pot, even among Christians, right?
No.
And so you pull back and you look at what America was founded on, what the ideology was founded on. It said, the founders believed there was a divine providence, that there was a high moral authority, and that every human being would bow the knee to this moral authority, whether they wanted to or not. And so those divisions, those denominational problems, all of those issues that they had as human beings, they knew were in opposition to God's purpose and plan.
Now,
and so
if you really want to see
government,
if you really want to see some true racism, back in the 60s, the 50s, let a Lutheran want to marry a Catholic.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just think about we have marriage licenses now. Does anybody know where those came from? Where when you have to go down to the city clerk and fill out your name and information and say, and sign over your marriage to the government. Do you not want to know where those came from?
Tell them.
They came from when it was illegal for a Black person and a white person to get married.
Yes.
They set up marriage licenses to legally allow a Black person and a white person to get married. And then they went, oh, well, we've got power over those marriages. Let's expand it to the whole country.
Right.
So that's why we have marriage licenses.
And you remember, you used to have to take a blood test to get married.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that got to do with anything?
Yeah. So literally now we are handing over our marriages. We are marrying the government. We are committing polygamy by signing those marriage licenses. And not only that, but we are by signing those marriage licenses, we are actively condoning homosexual marriage. And
watch this. You ready for this? Are you ready for this one? Okay, because this I blow people's mind with this one. I asked the church one day. We was talking, and I used the illustration of a man who was with this woman for 50 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Never got married.
Yep.
But he treated her right, took care of her, raised their children, did everything.
Yeah.
And then he died.
Yeah.
And I said, so did he live a sinful life and go to hell because they never got married? And now you got to remember, we had some religious folks at the time. They was like, yeah, because he was fornicating and all of that. And I was like, really? And they said, yeah. And then I asked this question. I said, how many of y'all been married? How many times y'all been married? Some said none. Some said once. Some said twice.
Mm-hmm.
But a bunch of them was like, none. I said, I bet I can prove you've been married. They was like, no, you can't. I said, according to the word now, not according to man law, but according to the word. Right? And they was like, so what do you mean?
I know where you're going with this.
According to the Bible, every time you had sex with somebody, you was consecrating a marriage.
Yeah, does everybody understand that? In the first marriage took place not when Adam and Eve first saw each other, but when they consummated their marriage before God. That is what marriage is. When you honor God by joining two people into one, both physically and spiritually, that is what marriage is. It has nothing to do with governments. It has nothing to do with the church. Marriage was the first institution set up by God before any other institution in the world.
And not only that, what they failed to realize, if they would study their Bible, who was it? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? Jacob had a whole wedding party, a whole wedding ceremony with one woman, but woke up married to another woman. Because why? Because he went into her. The moment he went into her, that was the marriage.
Yep, exactly.
And so, and Russ, I'm sorry, but you've been married more than one time for more than 9 years. So who? So
I've been married one time for 16 years.
So
one time.
53 left out of 500 today. Good job, Kat. That means y'all they was out doing lit drop. Yep. All right. So when we look at it, right, and people say, wow, I never looked at it. That's why God says, I would judge the fornicators and the adulterers.
Yeah.
Not you.
Yeah.
I will do that. Because why? Because the way we see things and the way we allow man to move us farther away from the laws of God is how we get caught up in a lot of stuff.
Yep.
And so, so like you say, with those marriage licenses, right? You know, we ain't paying no attention. And my grandmama used to say it all the time. You don't need a piece of paper to be married.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And I used to always listen to that. Never really paid attention, but I just listened to her, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what grandma talking? And I know my grandma was she really loved the Lord and everything. So I'm trying to listen. Like, okay, what's she talking about? You don't need a piece of paper.
Yeah, because the government doesn't get to tell you who you get to marry. That's between you and God and your spouse.
Right. And that's why you got to go back to government if you want to get out of it.
Yeah, I know. I listened to, who was it? There was a speaker who actually encouraged Christians to get divorced from the state and remarry under God.
Who's this? That Russ again. Yeah, that's Russ. Look what he said.
Oh, I've said that too to my kids and my husband. I don't want it to be a time of mourning. I want it to be a time of rejoicing, because I've left this broken world and gone to my Creator.
Oh yes, and the thing about it is, I want you to cry if I die full, but if I die empty, rejoice. That means I did everything God wanted me to do.
Yep.
Then rejoice.
Myself for the kingdom of God.
Yes. But if I die full of potential, because I didn't do what I was supposed to do,
yep.
Oh yeah, cry for me.
Yeah. But, yeah, because you'll be standing before the God of the universe and he'll be going, yeah, what did you do for me again?
I know. Can you explain why you didn't stand up for me?
Well, where were you when I was naked and hungry and and cold?
Well, Lord, I thought I was doing it. He ain't gonna buy that. See, yep. Man buy that.
Yep.
Wait a minute, what?
Have proper marriage, what? Dances with cake and presents, should it be before or after? Before or after the consummation?
Well, should be. Well,
so here's the Hebrew way that they got married. So the man would go into her father's house and he would set up the what they call the betrothal. And nowadays we look at betrothal as just kind of like it's the courting period, right? The dating period. But that's not how they looked at it then. Betrothal meant I betroth myself to you, and so I am now covenanting with you. I will be faithful to you and no other from till death do us part. And so he would go into the father. He would offer, the father would offer her the dowry, and the husband would set up the basically the marriage covenant, and then he would leave for a year. And within that 1 year period, he was preparing a place for his family. And then after that year, the bride had to wait and be faithful to him and not mess around with any other guys, because he would be coming like a thief in the night. He'd be coming to bring his bride into his home and consummate their marriage. So that betrothal period is what we would call an engagement period today. That was the period where you're preparing for marriage, you're preparing your home and your life to welcome your bride in, and get your life in order so that you're ready to walk as a bride, to walk into your husband's home and be and to consummate the marriage. That's what a wedding was. They didn't have, they would record it in their family Bible, or not the Hebrews, but they would record it, in the community. But that was like the after effect of it. There was no legal issues involved in the marriage. It was, here, I'm covenanting with you. I'm promising faithfulness and fidelity and till death do us part. And then preparing for a year, and then going into his home and consummating that covenant. That's what marriage was. So what we have in America today looks nothing like what God expected marriage to look like.
No, not at all.
We call things marriage that have nothing to do with marriage. So you think about it. If you are not a believer and you're signing that marriage license under God, you're not vowing before God. You're not covenanting before God. That's not marriage the way God defines marriage. Now, can you be faithful to your spouse and raise your children together and all of that stuff? Yes, of course, because we have to remember we're made in God's image. And so all of these things, this image bearer stuff that we do, comes out of that being made in the image of God. But marriage under God is a vow before God, two people joining their bodies and their spirits and their lives together as one. And it's the symbol of Christ and his church. It was a foreshadowing of Christ and his church. And so anything that's less than that is not marriage. At least not the way God defines it.
Well,
I'm getting preachy here.
I know, right? And the thing about it is that when we start to look at everything that we allowed them to move God out of, right? It places us in positions of trying to fix so much, And I use the illustration today about politics and everything is like you buy this house, right? And if you buy this house, the basement flooded, but the realtor didn't tell you it was flooded.
Yeah.
The roof leaks, but they didn't tell you that the roof leaks. Mm-hmm. It's infested with roaches, but they didn't tell you it's infested with roaches, right? The water coming out brown and glumpy, but they ain't tell you none of this. Yeah. You buy this house, and now you go in, and now you got all these issues that you got to fix. When we move God out of stuff, that's what happens. We get all of this. What did he say? Okay, see, we're not gonna go that deep into that one now. We're talking about the.
Yeah, and is that Russ again? Okay,
you know that's Russ.
Yeah, so the problem with that, Russ, is that those men were doing what they were not. They were in opposition to God, because God said male and female he created them, one man, one woman. So anybody who went outside of those boundaries, of course, was not in a God-fearing marriage. It was not in a God-central marriage. It says the threefold cord is not quickly broken, not the 24-fold cord, right? Right. The men who had multiple wives and stuff, they weren't doing marriage the way God asked them to do marriage. And he said that. He said that in the Old Testament, and he said that in the New Testament.
And the problem with that is this. Just because it's part of somebody's culture, don't make it right.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look at slavery. During slavery time, they was hanging people, then going to church.
Yeah.
Like they forgot, thou shalt not kill.
They were whipping slaves in the morning or they were going to church in the morning and whipping slaves and bedding the slave women in the evening. So yeah,
Yes.
that it didn't make it right just because
That
they
because right,
were
they
Christians.
still was going against the will of God.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, don't cover your neighbor's wife. You know, all of that. You breaking all the commandments, but then you want to sit in church and say hallelujah.
Yeah,
Those are the ones he said, I never knew you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but we do have evidence when a slave owner really got saved. What did he do? He started releasing his slaves, or he treated them like a brethren.
And he paid them for their labor, right? Those types of things. I mean, we have evidence of the founding fathers, the godly founding fathers, who they were part of a system that was broken and they were working to fix it, but it would take time, and because it was so enmeshed and ingrained in the system because of what Britain had done. And so they had to work within that broken system to change it, to change what was happening, and to bring a new system into place. It's like what happened in the New Testament when the old covenant was still there. People were still offering sacrifices on the altar in Jerusalem while they were bringing this new covenant of Christ as the ultimate sacrifice in. It's that transition period. It's painful. It's rough. There's persecution. There's a lot of crap that goes on in these systems when we're trying to break the old covenant system and bring in the new. And that's exactly what happened during the slavery time in America. We had founding fathers who were well ahead of their time, who realized that all men were created equal. This was a God-given revelation. They understood that, but they also understood that the system that they were in was broken, and they had to get that system out before they could pull the new system in. But in the meantime, they were transitioning and trying to move the hearts of the people. That's why we had the Great Awakening. That's why we had all of those things, because God was working in the hearts of the people, and that takes time. We cannot change a broken system overnight. So we're not going to change it. You know, this election is not going to suddenly, everything's going to be great in America again, but it can be the start of moving into that old new system, right? Bringing us back to those principles and values that the founding fathers set up, and saying, this is the way we're going to walk now. And it's going to be a transition period. We're going to still have remnants of that old system that we have to break down, but we're going to start where we're at.
Right. And the thing about it, if we don't have godly men and women, we can't fix it.
Yep. Godly men and women who believe that this old system is broken and we cannot continue in this established way. We have to change that. We have to move in a different direction.
Yes. And so that's the thing that I love about it, because of the fact that we know it's a lot of work that got to be done. And we know that we got to be bold enough to do it. Mr. Trouble is here.
What's going on?
What's up, Mr. Trouble?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
All right. What's that on
you
the
getting
side?
Ready for Tuesday?
What's that on the side? On the other side?
Oh, I don't even know. Hold on. Let me look in the mirror. Oh, yeah, I was brushing my teeth. I just got done at the gym. I was training.
Oh.
Yeah. What's going on with y'all, man? How's everything going?
Oh, man, it's going good. We're sitting here having some fun, talking about the Bible, talking about God, talking about bringing it back into politics, fixing the system that it was designed to be governed by the people of God. And now that it's in the hands of the wrong people, whether they're a Democrat or Republican, if they don't belong to God, then the system is in the wrong hands.
Yep.
So we have to now bring it to the place where the people of God run for office, get back in office, and fix it. If the person is not connected to God, they're not going to be able to fix it. And I'll tell you why. And then I'm going to let both of y'all jump in on this. And Ian, I'm going to let you go first because I know you like having fun. So,
and I've been talking a lot lately. So,
and the reason it is this, right? If they don't know God, then how they going to know the principles of God, and how they going to receive the wisdom of God to fix what man wisdom destroyed?
Well, I mean, as you already know, and it's funny because you talked about this when you were on Dan O'Donnell. last week when you were getting interviewed by Dan on WISN 11:30. I think you were on at 11:40, if I'm not mistaken. I think you were on around that time.
10:40.
And yeah, and Dan talked about that. And your answer, I really liked your answer. You basically broke down similar to what I'm going to say. There is no way that a person can really do the right thing if they don't have a moral guideline and if their moral compass fractured. There's no way. That's why you have corruption. That's why you have CRT. That's why you have gender dysphoria. In addition, you have the over-sexualization of children and people being attracted to them, and that is because they are godless. There's no other answer for that other than the fact that these people are godless. And if you don't have leaders in place, then those kind of laws that will go ahead and minimize the value of our children. Because if you really look at it, Sarah, you have one side of the political aisle that really, really, really doesn't value children. They don't value children. And the reason I say that is you have abortion laws for the most part, because it's up to the states now, at 20 weeks. That is what most people agree on. Obviously, us three, we don't. But, as far as quote-unquote average American, that's what they agree to. 20 weeks, I think they think that's a good barometer. Now, and I've said this before, and this is a theory of mine. Obviously, it's an opinion. But I think the reason that kids have been devalued so much progressively, no pun intended, right, is because their side of the aisle has been doing that for years. That's how come you have drag queen shows where you see children on stripper poles. And what is the reason for that? And the reason for that is obvious. It's sexualization. There's no other way to put that. And once you realize that you need to put God back in government, in God we trust, right? If we need to put God back in government, I think that we'll be better off. And it's just a little quick synopsis. I can talk about it all day, but yeah, that's why I think we need a man of God there, especially someone like you, David, that I've known for a while. When you were running for Milwaukee, I was part of your campaign. I really believe we're in trouble. We really are. And even if Tim or Rebecca wins, right, we're still have a whole bunch of work to do because and David, me and you talked about this earlier, and Sarah, to kind of include you in what we were talking about. We were talking about how the parties are our party, is extremely divided at this point. You got the vitriol coming from Clayfish fans to Michaels fans, and then Michaels fans to Clayfish fans, the dark money, and I'm not saying I'm innocent in everything. I literally, I jumped in because I think Tim is a Christian man, not saying Rebecca isn't, but I didn't like the attacks on him. So I jumped in, and man, I'm getting all kind of hate mail and everything like that, which is kind of funny though. If any of you want to be entertained, David, I know you see my stuff, but Sarah, if you want to be entertained, just go to the page. It's interesting.
Will do.
Not only go to his page, go to his TikToks too, because
Hey, okay, come on. I have tried so hard to stay off of TikTok.
Oh no, you gotta get on TikTok.
Yeah, it's all politics. Yeah,
you gotta get on TikTok.
Mine is all politics.
My sister-in-law keeps sending me her TikTok posts that just make me laugh. Just like if I didn't laugh, I would cry because it's that bad.
But when we look at it, no matter who come out of the governor's primary, right? And I've been saying this for a while, that I travel the state and I listen to everybody talk. And I'm not just saying it because I'm a candidate. If I wasn't a candidate, I would say we in trouble, right? Yeah. And because I'm a candidate, I can say any other lieutenant governor candidate, you're getting Batman and Robin. Robin always get beat up, all right? But with me, you get Green Hornet and Cato. Cato comes in, and Cato can whoop some butt. And the thing about us is, and Ian can relate to this, is Ian and I, we from the streets, but we know how to shift and be in business. And when I talk to certain people, they don't even know I come from the streets. I'm like, duh, where you think I come from? You know, if you can't relate to people,
exactly.
if you can't relate to the average person, you know, all you doing is going to go push a party agenda to see how fat your pocket can get. But when you come from the streets and the work that you do in those streets, you know the crisis that going on. You know how to fix them because you've been there. You know how to fix everything that's going on. You know how to help the veterans. You know how to help those that's on drugs and trying to get off drugs. You know how to help with because the people on the streets trust you. So you know how to help with sex trafficking because they trust you. You know, you know how to go in there and be that fighter because you had to fight to survive where we come from. So you know these kind of things. But the plus is you also know business because you got 30 years managing. You know, you're a business coach and a consultant right now. So you can be that adapter, and that way you can keep the people close to the government and making sure the government do not override itself and push itself on the people as well.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is like the Democrats. You know what? The Democrat did you wasn't on when I was talking about this, but the Democrat did an awesome chess move. You know, when I play chess with somebody that I know that don't know chess, guess what I do? I put my queen up front to see if they're going to take my queen. Yeah. And once they take my queen, I checkmate them. Because they got the queen. They don't know what to do now because they got the queen.
Yeah.
So that they open themselves up. When they had all of the candidates that was running against Mandela Barnes to drop out that race, that was just like having a picture of Martin Luther King and the Kennedy brothers, because it showed unity. And the Kennedy brothers didn't even like Martin Luther King.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I thought that was a brilliant move myself. I did. You know, as far as from a political standpoint, that was a brilliant move. I mean, Alex Lazarus is more qualified, to be quite frank. You know what I mean? He was probably more qualified than men. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, you could have had a novice intern be better than Mandela Barnes. He thought he was running against Scott Walker last week. And I thought that was funny because when I heard it, I heard Jay talking about it on his show, and I thought they were joking. They were not joking. Apparently, this dude said we got to beat Governor Walker, and he's the senator to ever be senator. I'm like, this man hasn't been in politics in 3.5 years. Like, what kind of drugs is this guy on? But you guys didn't hear that?
I heard about it. I didn't
hear YouTube it. Yeah, Mandela Barnes. He said he was running against Scott Walker like 3 weeks ago.
Did he pull a Biden?
He pulled a Biden.
I think they all pull Bidens. Yeah. And you know what? Melissa is right here, you guys. This is spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
We have to send warriors. We cannot send nobody just quoting scripture, because the Bible gave us in the book of Acts. Remember the 7 sons? They went in there to try to deal with that demon. And the demon said, "Wait a minute, Paul, we know, Jesus, we know, but who are you?"
Yeah, who are you? Yeah.
And you send somebody for a spiritual warfare who is spiritually dead, we in trouble.
Yeah. I know, and I mean, going back to what you first said, Ian, about that they don't value children. It goes back to the fact that, one, they don't value human life at all because they don't value the Creator who made us.
Right.
And so
let's go back to this for example. We and Melissa's right. We don't need Alex, but they knew Alex was more qualified too. But what did they do? They made an image to say we are unified by putting what? The minority up front.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
They put a minority up front, and Because you know doggone well, they even know that Ellis is more qualified. They even know that treasurer is more qualified. But they said, no, we need the image because we got to win on image. That's what they're looking at. But you gotta, but we gotta look at it. We have to look at it like this. If we're gonna tell the truth, let's tell the truth on both sides.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. The Republican Party does the image thing too. They play that game as well. I mean, you think about who they keep pushing forward to fill the governor's position and they're pushing the people because of the image that they want to present.
Right.
You know, like, oh, good, the white Christian soccer mom, she's gonna be the one, and she worked with Scott Walker, and so she's got to be the qualified candidate because. And so they pushed. I mean, when we were at state convention.
Wait a minute. Wait. Stay right there because I got to share this.
Yeah.
That's why they put Will Martin in the race.
Yeah.
They put Will Martin in the race because he's a black man that worked with Tommy Thompson and Scott Walker.
Oh, yeah. I listened to the debates, and there were several questions that he dropped the ball on. It was like, what? That was a very simple question you could have easily answered. It, you know, like the whole sanctity of life thing, and oh no, I'm not gonna get into that one. I don't, you know, really, because if you're a God-fearing man, you should know the answer to that.
That's the point. Yeah. They're not God-fearing people.
Yeah.
They will quote a scripture because they know majority of people on the Republican side are people of God, so they will quote a scripture. But the point of the matter is, when you listen to them talk, they do not sound. Like they sound like they out of touch.
Where's the fruit?
Right. There is no fruit.
Absolutely. They do sound completely out of touch.
Yeah. Tone deaf. I like to call it tone deaf.
and the sad part about it is that if here's the how should I say this? The image, right? Well, I don't even want to say image. Let's just diagnose this thing, right? If the Republican Party was really trying to show the black community, right, that they're not racist. Watch this. I'm gonna show you how slow we are. If the Republican Party if they wanted to show the black community that they was not racist, don't you think they would have got behind a black pastor who's been working in the community for over 20 years?
Oh.
I mean, a black pastor who has evidence.
You know, I mean, you already know, man. I've been saying this stuff for this. It falls on deaf ears, man. Like, for instance, I got a story. When I was at Right Talk, Wisconsin, we interviewed an extremely prominent African American Republican. I mean, he was prominent, or is prominent actually. Say that he ran for governor in a liberal state recently, and dude, he basically let us know. He said that at the top, he said they're just as racist as the Democrats. He said they are. He said they they are. So I'm with you.
Do you know? Do you know Swin in Tennessee? She ran for mayor. She's part of that video, Uncle Tom movie. Tom.
Carol Swain.
Carol Swain. Mm-hmm. She said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They did not want her to have her campaign office in the hood.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is something, and this is also, if we're talking about, the lines that are drawn, why are we so focused on the party politics that the candidates aren't going to the other side? They're stopping at all these Republican events and Republican fundraisers and things like that. Why aren't you going out into the Democrat side and talking to Democrats? Why are we knocking doors just for the Republican? You get the campaign sidekick thing, and you get a list that's already it says these are Republicans, and you're talking to them and getting their vote. Why aren't we going to the other houses in the neighborhood and talking to the Democrats and saying, hey, if I get into lieutenant governor, I'm actually representing you as well as the Republicans. So what are your concerns? What are the things that you are struggling with? And where can we meet in the middle on this? Where can we come to an
Hey,
agreement on it.
That's my saying all the time. Meet me in the middle and have a mind to work.
Yeah.
But wait a minute.
And not compromising values, not compromising our principles and our fearing of God, but coming out and saying, I'm not just a Republican lieutenant governor. I'm a lieutenant governor. I don't have a party affiliation. When I get into that office, I represent the people of Wisconsin.
But you know, even Melissa, I gotta say this. Some of the local conservative radio shows wouldn't even have me on. For example, Meg Ellison. I know Meg from the Tea Party days, and she was pushing Will Martin, so she wouldn't interview me. She wouldn't have me on.
Mm.
I was told I was going to be speaking on the regular Joe show, but he's supporting Kyle Hughes. So after the debate, and I told Kyle Hughes up in the debate, he never had me on. So when you look at these conservatives, so-called conservative radio shows, they only pushing the people that they like. They're not going to allow people to get into that avenue, because they know why. Because they know the moment you start talking, you're going to steal votes from the ones that they're supporting.
Yeah. What would it look like if we had primary elections where it was a bipartisan election, right? Where you had both the Democrats and the Republicans on the same ballot. You didn't have to vote one side or the other, right?
Right.
What would happen then? This is something that I'm sick and tired of, these partisan primaries, because it gives people who are supposed to be representing the state of Wisconsin, the people of Wisconsin, it divides them into two parties, and then those parties only focus on their own people, their own tribe, right?
Right.
Where that was never intended in the Constitution. You represented the people. You didn't represent your party. Every one of the founders hated party politics, and they did not want that to be the ultimate deciding factor for you voting somebody in. In fact, most of the state constitutions still to this day, in at least on the East Coast, those early constitutions have a requirement in their constitution that you had to be a Christian to sit in office.
Matter of fact, in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, it's still there.
It's still there. So that was the only qualification they had. They didn't say you have to be a Whig, you have to be a Tory, you have to be a Democrat or a Republican or a Democrat Republican. They said you had to be a Christian to sit in office, a God-fearing Christ follower that people could look to as a representative and know that they were representing the people of your state or the people of your local municipality or whatever it was, whatever office you held. That was the only qualification, that you had to know Christ and make him known. And so this whole thing about, partisan or the partisan primaries, I hate it. I hate the system, and I want to tear it down, because we should be having Democrats and Republicans going to the people, regardless of what side they're on, and saying, I'm going to represent the state of Wisconsin. I'm going to represent the county of Jackson. These are my values, and you vote based on the values that I hold.
Yes. And that is something that the thing that we have to look at. Ian knocked off. I guess he's gonna get back on. I told him to jump back on. But the thing that we have to look at is this: when we as a people go back to our values. That's why I said up in Luck, Wisconsin, instead of voting for R for Republican, vote for R, which stands for righteousness.
Yes.
If we go back and do that, Paris, come on the show, Paris. Come on, Paris.
Yeah.
We like troublemakers tonight.
Yeah, because Paris, this is the system, but we can transition to a different system while we're in this by, like, Dr. King is going into Democrat places and talking to Democrats, right? So yes, maybe there's the endorsement process and all of these other things, but we at state convention, we managed to keep the endorsement from happening because we didn't want to mess with that system. And so, it's messy and it's hard to do that, but you're not just representing one tribe.
Right. And the thing that we have to stop saying is, well, it's hard to do. No, you put the right people in office, they're going to make the right decision and let people know it's not about one person. It's about all of us. And it's about all, because here's the thing about it. Republican people are not the only one that is dealing with CRT. All kids are dealing with CRT.
Exactly.
Republicans is not the only one dealing with sex trafficking.
Yeah.
All people are dealing with sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Republican soldiers is not the only one sleeping under a bridge.
Yep.
All soldiers are sleeping under a bridge. So it's not about Democrat or Republican. Yeah. You're there to serve the people.
Yeah.
And the mindset that we have to have is the same mindset that God had. What the Bible says, God reigns on the just as well as the unjust.
Exactly.
So everybody get the reign. So all of us got to get to a place where we realize that we're not there to push just we got an event tomorrow night. No, not tomorrow night. I'm sorry. We have an event on Monday. All pastors. We're going to be preaching. Grassroots pastors are preaching Monday night. And we have a Wisconsin Revival Rally in the city of Milwaukee. Cool. The message is on one of my message is on Conservative Daily Podcast on Rumble with my brother from another mother, Joe. You can go on there and you can see that we did a show on God and putting God back in America. So, so we're getting the message out. I'm believing. I'm excited about Tuesday. Matter of fact, I am singing a song. God is great because I know we're going to come out. I believe if the people, if they really want true change and if they really did their homework, we would lose out of ignorance. And what do I mean by that? People not doing the homework. People just voting emotions. But if they go do the homework and they go and understand what really at stake, right? And they go do that homework, it's not even a scientific move. It's not even rocket scientists. This is the person that's qualified to help us get things done in a way where all of us will be taken care of. And so when we look at it like that, but we also got to understand both sides don't want the people taken care of.
Yep.
Both sides just want power.
Yep.
They're not looking at the people. They're not looking at the children. They don't want to talk about sex trafficking.
Yeah. And we can, we're obviously making broad sweeping generalizations. I do believe that there are people on the conservative side and even on the Democrat side who genuinely want to help. It's just what we're missing is where's their value system coming from, right? If it's a humanist perspective, it's never going to end well. If it's a God perspective, it will always end well. But if it's whatever is not of God is not it's not righteous, it's not good. And so that's what we need to be looking at. And I will definitely hold the Republican Party more accountable on this point, is that we're supposed to be the party of Christ, right? The party, the Christians, the conservatives are supposed to have these values that have a Christ worldview. The Republican Party of today, many people that I talk to in the Republican Party say over and over again how the church is separate. Like my church life is separate from my political life. I don't get into politics because I'm a Christian, or I get into politics but it doesn't affect my faith. I don't let my faith affect that because the church and the state need to be separate. That was never ever, ever the intent
I'm
of
trying to still
of
figure out how they split their life like that. You
how.
can't.
Yes, it's you're a double-minded man, unstable in all your ways. That verse comes to mind, because how do you have stability if Christ is not, if the Christian worldview does not, what's the word I'm looking for, does not define and what is the word I'm looking for? Oh my gosh, I lost it. Anyway, if the Christian worldview does not define, if Christ does not define every aspect of your life and decide how you vote and how you eat, how you take care of your body as the temple of God, if you're not looking at every aspect of your life from a Christ worldview, then how on earth do you live without being schizophrenic?
You know, but you know the thing that you're saying is, you know, that is what's I try to figure it out. I try to talk to people and I'm like, how do you split your life?
Yeah.
How do you split your life from not serving God when it's election time?
Yeah.
When that, if that is not the most awesome time, right?
Yeah.
To shine your light
Yes.
during election time. But when you say, well, I have two lives, you know, so you voting for people that's making laws against the God that you claim you love.
Yeah.
So you know you got to give an account for that.
Yeah.
And what you gonna tell God? Well, I separated my life. It's okay, then depart from me. I never knew you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the other thing about that story, the sheep and the goats story. A lot of people, when I grew up in church, I was told that the goats were unbelievers. No, the goats were part of the church. The goats were believers who claimed to follow Christ and did nothing. It was the true believers versus the ones who claimed Christ and did not live Christ out.
Right. And the thing about it is, when we look at it for what it really is,
Yeah.
and you say, if you go to Matthew chapter 13, when Jesus talked about the wheat and the tare,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
I'm gonna read that right quick, because see, I know you'll grab the Constitution. I'm gonna grab the other one. It's called the Word of God.
Yeah, the Word of God. I got that one here too. So
and so I'm gonna. Okay, there you go. I'm gonna go to Matthew 13. And then I'm gonna go down to verse 36. Well, let's look at verse 37. Okay. And in verse 37, he said, and he answered, Jesus answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man.
mm-hmm.
The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom. So let me stop right there for a second. Jesus Christ says the good seed is the children of the kingdom of God. So you and I are the good seed.
Yep.
All right. And the world is what he's talking about when he say the world. He's talking about the system that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
That system. So he put us out there into the system. That's why you're a county supervisor, right? That's why I'm running for lieutenant governor. That's why you got somebody in arts and entertainment. My brother Joe is in media because he got his podcast and everything like that. So he said, we the good seed. And he threw us into the world system. I tell people this all the time. You a seed that came to earth that was supposed to be planted, right? That you mature to a tree that the world can eat your fruit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't allow people to eat your fruit, then your fruit just rottens. So then he goes on to say, but the tare are the children of the wicked one.
Yep.
the enemy that sown them is the devil. So when we look at this thing, right, what we have done as the wheat, because most of us are not connected to God like we ought to be, we have been voting in the tares.
Yep.
Tares look like wheat,
Yep.
but it's not wheat.
Yep.
Tare can even sound like wheat. Praise the Lord, saints. This is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad. Oh, they must belong to God because they quoted a scripture.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we voted them in, and then when we voted them in, they changed the law because they wanted to change our culture.
Yeah.
So law, whoever controls law controls the culture.
Yeah.
So when you got godless people in office, then the culture is going to be godless.
Yep.
But if you got godly people in office, then the culture is going to be godly.
Yeah.
So we have to. So what we're telling people is during election time, I am going to be godless because I'm splitting my life.
Yep.
So I'm gonna be godless for a minute.
Yep.
And vote godless, and then I'm gonna go back to being part of God, and then I'm gonna pray because everything is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't get that.
Yeah. I don't either. I don't understand that concept of separating out Christ from the rest of your life. The church has done such a horrible job of that. It's like we're just sitting in our pews and we listen to a message, whether it's a good message or a bad message, it doesn't really matter because we go home and the rest of our life is secular. When in scripture did God ever separate out the sacred from the secular? You know, you think about the work when he says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for men. So when I'm in my job, a secular job, you know, quote unquote, secular job, as a county supervisor, I'm supposed to be working for the Lord, not for men.
Right.
And by working for the Lord, I am representing my fellow human beings, but I'm representing them in God's name, not in
right.
mine.
Because he says everything that we do it as unto the Lord, not unto the Republican Party,
Yeah.
not unto man, but
Yep.
unto God. So now we can sit in those positions
Mhm.
and make godly decisions without compromising who we are in God.
Exactly. Yep.
And so the beauty of it is that we fear God more than we fear man.
Yep.
There we go. There he is.
Back.
Troublemaker number 2, but he's probably enemy number 1.
I'm whose enemy number 1?
I don't know.
Well,
it's like you'd have made a lot of people
I'm ruffling a feather or two.
A 2, a 3, a 4,
a feather or 50.
A 50.
I know. No, I'm just defeathering the whole bird. That's what I'm doing.
And eventually you're going to tell me to get the flock out of here.
Nice.
So
it's David's fault. He invited me.
How are you, sir?
I'm all right. It's been an interesting couple weeks here.
That's what we're talking about. These interesting couple of weeks. Not looking at a person character, and some of the crazy stuff that are being said.
And this schizophrenia in humankind over government versus the church.
It's I don't know. It's something. We're at a kind of a watershed moment in our history.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be a lot of, our country, if you look back at our history, we seem to be going in these cycles.
Yes.
And we've hit, everybody disappeared on me, or am I?
You're on the hot seat, so keep talking.
I'm on the cool guy. All right. Good thing I'm the shy, quiet type. But we have a situation here where we need a we're in search of an identity. I think that's part of it. It's kind of an
Mhm.
identity crisis.
Mhm.
And what's happening is we've got people with the most extreme views
Mhm.
actually coming to power.
Yeah.
And it's the fringe, and the fringe doesn't typically govern because they're the fringe. They're usually on the outskirts. So they'll raise a few flags on something and everything else, but it's not anything. But now suddenly, boom, everybody's in charge, and you look at the only thing really protecting us from this is Joe Biden. And that's what's kind of scary about all this. If he decides to quit tomorrow, the fringe is literally in charge. Right now, they're kind of in charge of him, but he's still kind of wrestling back a little control.
Well, and he says the quiet part out loud, so people like know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, then again, I'm much younger than Joe Biden. I still haven't mastered the art of the internal monologue. I just say what's on my mind. I don't know.
Tell us about the rally. You was at the rally.
Yeah, I went to the rally yesterday. It was actually, and you got some people trying to paint the picture that nobody was there. It's so boring and blah, 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 blah. And, there were a couple thousand people there, probably 2,500, give or take, which is typical. The average Trump rally, I think the Janesville rally in 2016, when he first ran before he was president, I think I went back and looked at old articles and stuff like that. They were estimating about 2,100. So this is a typical rally. He's no longer the president, so it's a little bit different type of situation.
Yeah.
But even when he was president, he was only getting like 3,000, 3,500 at these rallies in Wisconsin. So there's that. But there was a lot of good energy out there. I think, there were some people that are trying to create something out of nothing. Oh my gosh, they wouldn't let people who had a Ramthun t-shirt on, they wouldn't let them in unless they took their t-shirt off. And in state of Wisconsin, it's the law. If you create a perimeter, people are allowed to determine who is allowed to stay in that perimeter, short of discriminating or something like that. Like they say, no Greeks allowed.
Well, isn't that in our Constitution though? The right to free assembly. I mean, that's kind of what we kind of messed with that.
It is, and this was a Trump Michaels rally, so they don't want that. We did that.
People came in there. They had on King shirts, and they told them they had to take it off, so they put on the Michael shirts. Yeah. So they didn't have a problem with it. They was like, "Oh, we can't wear this. Okay, we'll put this on."
It's effectively a private event. I mean, we did this back years ago at the Walker rally we had in Wauwatosa. It was a foot of snow, but we had it was about 4,000 people, and we all kept warm because we were close. The police told us you have to create a perimeter, otherwise we can't enforce the perimeter, and anybody can go in there. So they said it was okay, just take caution tape all the way around, and that's all we did. That was our defined perimeter. And there were a couple of people that penetrated that weren't allowed. And those were, at that point, it was Democrats or, Union. I'd say it was during the recall. And so people, this is not the number one problem, whether or not you're allowed to wear a t-shirt.
Yeah.
It was a Michaels event. It was President Trump is still, I don't know if he's going to actually run or not. Yeah. He might. And, I've under the guys, if he does run, I'll support him, but I'm kind of concerned about it too, because he's also going to be 80 years old. So there's some of that. But I think to heal going back to medical terms, to heal any wound, you first have to stop the bleeding, right?
Yeah.
Donald Trump stopped the bleeding. Yeah. He used the Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Now we've got to heal the wound, heal the nation. And that's that. And people have to be patient too.
Yeah.
It's going to take a generation or two.
Well, yeah. And I worked as a registered nurse for a while before I stayed home with my kids. I was a wound nurse.
Cool.
So I can I love that analogy because I've said this, talking about relationships, talking about the church, talking about all these things. You stop the bleeding in the wound, but depending on how bad the wound is, sometimes you have to go in, basically reopen that wound and debride it. And that is a painful process. It is horrifying to be a part of, because when you get that gangrene and you get the infection and all that stuff, if you don't get that out, that wound just grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what we're doing right now. We're going to have to spend the next few generations debriding the wound before it's going to heal.
And
Well,
we have to start it in Wisconsin. If you can't just try to, and if you put a Band-Aid on America that needs stitches, it's not going to heal.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So we gotta start in Wisconsin, and we got to get Wisconsin healed, and then we can show other states how to heal.
Yeah.
But we have to start here. And one of the things that I'm telling people is, the moment I get sworn in as lieutenant governor, we're going on a 3-day fast. And on that fast, we're going to meet at the rotunda, and we're going to pray, and we're going to ask God to forgive us, heal our state, because we need healing in our own state.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about it. We need fast healing on August 10th. So if we're not going to be healed, then we are in trouble.
Yeah.
And I, obviously I am, very much on record that I've had some fundamental issues with the Rebecca Kleefisch campaign, but I've also been into the guys that, okay, we have the primary. We were just talking. That's how I chimed in on that. It is the process, and if she wins, I'm going to support her, because the alternative is so much worse. We're never going to find that perfect candidate. They don't exist.
Yeah.
There's, like David would say, there's only one perfect candidate.
There's only one.
And he's not running for office.
He's already king, so he's not running for office.
Yeah.
So.
Precisely. I think, so we all have to pick ourselves up our big boy pants, and we all have to knuckle, because in the end, whoever the nominee or the potential, not nominee, but whoever wins the primary is going to be our vessel at that point. It's our job to influence that vessel.
Exactly.
And then when the vessel gets into office, Mr. King, it's our job, you and me, Sarah.
Yep.
We gotta hold his feet to the fire.
Oh yeah.
I think that's
our first meeting. I was holding his feet to the fire, so he knows that.
Well,
Paris, Paris, if you was running for office and you met Sarah, if you wasn't straight, you would have been straight by the time y'all got done.
I'm straight. Wait, what are we talking about here?
But this is the thing that we have to look at, and I tell people we got 2 days, well 3 days, but we have to look at this. Now is not the time to vote our emotions. Now is the time to say, who can really, we got to be truthful with ourselves.
Yeah.
Who can really go in there and whoop Evers?
Yeah.
Because we get one shot at this.
Yeah.
And if we don't do right and we don't get it done, and like Melissa keep telling us, this is spiritual warfare. And if you ain't got spiritual people on that ticket, how are you going to win a spiritual battle?
Yep.
And it's about the spirit of our country. It's about the spirit of our world. I mean, it's every little thing. You look at right now. I posted this today. Today's August 6th. August 6th, 1945. We nuked Hiroshima.
Yep.
Everybody can argue whether or not it was justified or whatever, but I think it was. History has proven that it saved lives ultimately. But and I looked at it and I just said, Fat Man and Little Boy, the two bombs that they dropped were basically like firecrackers compared to what they have these days.
Yeah.
And here we are staring nuclear war in the face.
Yeah.
Because one tyrant decided to evade another tyrant. Yeah. And, one tyrant has good PR. So everybody's, good, bad, or different. But it's so we've got a problem I mean, we got a lot of healing to do up and down the
Oh,
the
yeah.
ladder.
Yeah.
And when you look back at history, this liberal entrenchment, the communism that has infested our schools, the breakdown of the family, breakdown of our systems, destroying our national history, all that stuff that's been going on since Woodrow Wilson. That's
Oh,
how
yeah.
much time they have dedicated into pushing this stuff in here.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to take a long time to undo that damage, and
Well-
little things like getting David, when you were on the radio with Dan O'Donnell, and hats off to Dan O'Donnell, he put everybody on the air, and that's all you're asking for. You're not asking for exclusivity. You just want a chance for your voice to be heard, right?
Right.
But when you said one thing that really hit me, and Ian's on double trouble. So we have when you said, I'm going to come in office, I can say what others can't. I'm going to go out and work and do what I need to do to get, you're going to be doing the back end work.
Right.
Well, in my case, hopefully Governor Michaels will get in there and do that. If it happens to be Governor Cleefish and, God forbid, Governor Evers, but you have to have somebody who can be that vessel to affect change.
Yeah.
And that's where I mean, people really annoy me. Oh, it's not perfection, absolute perfection. We got to get, but they were wrong on this, or wrong on that, Yeah. What's that? Sorry, I'm taking over your show, but I don't like to talk, but you have.
You're doing a good job of it.
Yeah. William F. Buckley said it. I'm going to support the most conservative candidate who can win. At this point, I think it's Tim Michaels, because I think he can win. Is he the most conservative candidate? Probably not. David King, is he the most conservative candidate? Well, you might be, but I think he can win. I'm just saying that. I don't try to toot his horn. I've known him a long time. I think he'd be great. He's the most likely he can win in the long run. He'll add balance to the ticket. But if it happens to be Cleefish versus Evers, well, at that point, Cleefish is the most conservative candidate, so I've got to support her. She is pro-life. She is, I agree.
She's not a rhino.
No, and that I agree. I don't. That's the one thing that President Trump did say last night. He said she's a rhino. Yes, she's supported by rhinos, a lot of them, a lot of the Never Trumper supporters, stuff like that. But she herself, she's a conservative. I've never argued that. I just think.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah, but I just think it's important that we have somebody with a little more experience in there. She's been around too long in the thing. David King's not been around long enough to develop any bad habits in government. Tim Michaels, same thing. Tim Ranthon, I got to give the guy credit. He has his major issue of election reform. I'm glad he's staying in. People are mad he's staying in, but I'm glad he is, because he's bringing attention to a much needed thing. Mm-hmm. Is President Trump going to be in office tomorrow? No. Nothing's going to put him in office unless he runs and wins in 2024. Mm-hmm. But we still got to look into what happened.
Yeah.
And then when we win, we got to hold ourselves accountable. We got to hold Dr. King accountable. We got to hold Michaels, whoever. And that's what we didn't do when Scott Walker, Cleefish, and the Republican Assembly, Republican Senate. We had power. People stopped caring, so we just kind of let them.
Well, it wasn't that they stopped caring; it's that we won and we went to Disney World.
Yeah.
We came back,
we went and drank our champagne.
Yeah, exactly. It was like we won, we got control. But you know what? We never. I think for a long time, and I think people are waking up to this. We have watched Democrats be in full control, and we have watched Republicans be in full control. Mm-hmm. And what have happened is the people was the casualty of the war.
Yeah.
So now people are saying, you know what? I don't want a red wave. I want a we the people wave. I want somebody that's gonna remember us.
I like that.
I like that too.
I want people that's going to address our issues now. It's about us now. It's not about Democrat or Republican. We see both sides did not do what they were supposed to do for us. Yeah. Now it's about us now. What are you going to do about us? Our kids' education is being dumbed down. We're being forced to either take a shot or not work. We've been forced not to go in the doctor's office with our children. because now the doctors can indoctrinate our children while they're in there. And did you know one doctor asked a 12-year-old girl, "Are you comfortable being a girl? Anybody forcing you to stay a girl?" These are the questions that's being asked in the doctor's office now. And nobody is saying anything because we don't want to talk about that. All we want to talk about is wasteful spending and lower taxes. So while you focus on that, the Democrats say stay focused on that, and we're gonna steal your kids. You're afraid to go to the hospital now because if you go to the hospital, you don't know if you're coming out. Do you, Paris? I got to tell you and end this, and Sarah don't know either because I'm gonna tell all y'all because y'all don't know. But when I was in an accident last week, me and my wife had a I like to call it a beautiful fellowship discussion. And the discussion was, you're going to the hospital. For me, I'm like, I'm not going to the hospital. And she was like, nope, you're going to get checked out. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to. Well, she won, and I went to the hospital. But,
you don't even have to say that.
hey, but the thing about it is, I went just so I didn't have to go. Why? Because in the hospital, you got to wear a mask, right? So I walked in the hospital, I'm not wearing a mask. So I'm thinking they're going to tell me I got to leave. They didn't say nothing. Then they took me in the back, and I'm like, well, I'm getting ready to go because they're not going to give me a test, right? They're not going to test me, right? Because if they test me, I'm leaving. They didn't even try to test me because I know so many people that went into the hospital on something minor and never came out.
That's scary.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. I'm going to go through that with a friend of
Just
mine.
read something that
battled.
said that Rebecca Clayfish was up 36% to 34%. I don't know.
Oh, you're talking
And
about
undecideds are undecided.
There's 17% undecided. The Emerson poll. You know, Emerson also had Joe Biden winning Wisconsin by 8%. Yeah, they're not very credible.
Joe Biden and Emerson is also my son, so he's 6.
Okay, well, in 2020, they literally got they got one governor's race right. That was North Carolina. They predicted about 50-50, and the rest of them they were literally off by 7 or 8 points. They're not at that accurate, and it's even harder in a primary.
Yeah.
But you know what Melissa just said, right? And I mean, and you have to look at it like this. I respect, and I'm gonna say it on here, I respect every candidate running for lieutenant governor. I respect them. I don't like all. Oh Lord, look at that. I don't like all their ways because some of them done some stuff that is ungodly. So I don't like all their ways, but I do respect them all. But the reality of it, when we look at it from a reality, we gotta come back to earth. Don't beam us up, and let's not go to what's that Star Wars that you hold up? Let's not go there.
That was Yoda.
Okay, so let's not go there, but let's literally look at reality. And the reality is, none of them is really going to none of them have a message that's going to resonate with liberals and independents or moderate Democrats.
Yeah.
They don't have what it takes to and I'm gonna let you three jump in this. I'm just giving my opinion first. I don't believe that they got a message that resonate. I mean, if you look at it, you got Cindy Warner that says she's been doing conservative fighting for 30 years. You know them Democrats is going to look for that, right?
Yeah.
And if they can't find that, you know they're going to eat that alive. You know, and so and I just use her as an example, but you know, they're going to use that bill that Testin tried to pass with the funeral homes to dispose of the liquid and all of that in the water from the bodies from the funeral home. You know, so all of this stuff that is coming out, it's going to come out. So I don't think, to be honest, I don't think none of them is strong enough to win. Because if I did, I probably would have did what Nichols did. I probably would have jumped out the race and got behind one of them and then wait for 2024 and run for mayor. But we don't have nobody. and there's too much at stake right now. So I can't leave this race. I have to stay in this thing because we got to win this.
Mhm.
We need the strongest people that can go in there with the right message and win this election.
Yeah, I was talking to one of the other candidates for lieutenant governor at the fair today, and I have nothing against him personally. I think he's got a good, strong message about his faith, about pro-life stuff, about Second Amendment stuff, but I personally don't see him as the type of agitator that we need to be in office making those changes. He's a nice guy. We don't need nice right now. we need agitators. We need people who are
Well,
going to
thanks for not calling me nice.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so it's not most of the decisions that I'm making going into the voting booth is at this round at least is saying, okay, they're spot on with their message, but they're playing nice. They talk about how we can, I've worked in a purple region in Wisconsin, and so I know how to talk to both sides. Yes, that's good. We want to have the ability to talk to both sides and to communicate your message and all of that stuff, but not in such a way where we're compromising on the important things, right?
Go ahead. Any one of y'all can go
Ian.
ahead. And
Yeah,
You too quiet.
you said something, Dave. You said something about the liquefying of the bodies. Now, this is the thing that drives me nuts about politics. Evers, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Evers kind of do that in secret, Paris? David, didn't he kind of? Didn't he kind of do that kind of under the radar? And he kind of was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go ahead and liquefy the bodies so they can be reused as far as whatever they turn them into." I did a segment on that.
yeah,
And that is something that a lot of people don't know what's going on in regard to disposal.
I don't even know what is
the human bodies. That was amazing when I was reading that. Huh?
Is this like a Soylent Green sort of a thing, or what's going on?
well, it was supposed to be. Some of it was supposed to go on plants, I believe. And I wish Kim was on here because Kim can tell. It's on TikTok too.
Okay.
Everything's on TikTok.
Which is exactly why I'm not on TikTok.
I'm on TikTok.
I
Okay. But even Ian
mine
knows
is-
that.
On TikTok too, actually.
So
Yeah. So, but when we understand, and us folk understand it. We get it. We know what's at stake. We know what'll happen if we give Evers 4 more years.
Yeah.
We already know. Matter of fact,
Woo!
I might give my wife her wish and move to Florida. But we already know what would happen if he get 4 more years.
Yeah.
And if we don't know how to fight spiritually, if we don't know how to fight spiritually, he's gonna get 4 more years. If we don't, I mean, even though we gotta back these people, but I don't need, how should I say this? I don't need to watch a Riverside football team go against the Green Bay Packers.
Wow.
Come on.
And that's,
I mean, let's be real about this thing. You put them up against Evers them. They are going to have a field day. Why? Because what do you think one of their number one issues they're going to deal with? They got 2 they're going to play with, but which one is the number one?
ooh, a test.
Abortion, probably.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Let me
Roe
tell
v.
you
Wade.
why I say that. It was so funny. I went to a rally that the liberals was having in Milwaukee in Midtown. It was the first day of early voting. And I walked in and I had my King for Lieutenant Governor t-shirt on. And the beauty of it is when I walk into those kind of places, guess what? they automatically, because I'm black, think I'm a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting in there watching them host.
You're black?
Yeah. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching them do this thing, talking about voter oppress, talking about all of this stuff, right? So I'm sitting there listening. When it was over, a lady who's running for, I don't know what she's running for, but she's a Democrat, and she took a picture with.
She was running her mouth.
Yeah, but she's running for an office, and she took a picture with me. And when she took the picture, I think she's running for treasurer or secretary of state.
Oh,
but
no.
She took a picture with me, and I said to her, I said, I don't think you want to post that picture. And she said, why? I mean, are you have a problem with me posting it? I said, oh, I have no problem with you posting it, but I just want you to know, if you post that picture, you're not going to get any votes. And she said, why not? I said, because I'm a Republican. And she was like, what? Yeah. And I was like, I'm a Republican. And she was like, for real? I said, for real. And then she said, so what do you think about pro-choice? I said, I'm life. I believe in life. So we got to talking, and she says, so what about the woman that don't want to have the baby? I said, stop having sex.
Yeah.
Sex is designed to produce children.
Yeah.
And then so this guy comes up and he gonna say, so why you don't believe in abortion? I said, first of all, because I'm a man of God. I don't believe in that crap. And then he says, well, God gave up his son, Jesus. I said, yeah, but he didn't give him up in the womb.
And Jesus willingly went to the cross.
Right. But I told him, I said, but he didn't give him up in the womb.
Yeah.
So don't try to use that. But they use it, all of this crap. But I'm sitting there, right? And I'm hitting them. And they got to talk about oppressing votes. And then I brought out history. Let's talk about who really oppressed votes. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about how the Democrats birthed the KKK to oppress the votes. Yeah. Let's talk about, and when I got through with them, one guy said, man, I like you. You are very smart. He said, you didn't go on the defense. You just gave us history. You told us stuff we didn't even know. And then they say, well, LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act. I said, but you got to remember, if it wasn't for the Republican passing it, he couldn't sign it.
Yeah. And he didn't want to either. He knew that it was he had to because of the all of the stuff going on around that time. He was forced to do that. He didn't like it.
Right. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. Let's talk about that Civil Rights Act. Lyndon Johnson. Okay. Because he passed it, so he's the godfather of the civil rights movement or whatever. Okay. So back at about 1954, 1955 or so, then President Dwight D. Eisenhower helped get a Civil Rights Act passed. Went through the legislature, through the House, passed in the House, went through the Senate, it got filibustered. Mm-hmm. And didn't even get filibustered. The majority leader in the United States Senate at the time would not allow it to come to a vote. Mm-hmm. You know who that majority leader was? Lyndon Baines Johnson. Yep. Look it up.
Yep.
I was against it before I was for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
but they don't talk about it. So when I told him, I said you got to understand, Republican passed it, so he had to sign it. And you got to understand, the president only signed what they passed. I said, so when they passed it, you got to look at who, because the man, I forgot his name. Y'all help me out, you history buff. But the majority leader that was the one that pushed it to get it passed. Didn't he get an award from who gave him an award? Dang.
I don't know.
The guy that the Republican that got it passed received an award. And I believe the award was from the NAACP or something like that.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. I needed all the help I can get.
But I can't remember his name. But he got an award. I'll find it, because y'all know I got so much stuff I'll be looking up and digging out and everything. But the point is, we need people who understand history, and we need somebody that understands Black history. So when we go against the Democrats, we put them on the defense and not the offense.
Can I ask you a question? And this is something that the Republicans feel like is one of those third rails of politics, and they've done a really crappy job of doing it. Because right now the Black community is in desperate search of a home. They're leaving the Democrats in droves, but they have no place to go, and the Republicans really haven't painted that. And what we saw with COVID-19 was, everybody argues there's systemic racism, and most people believe that it's not necessarily. Most on the right tend to believe it doesn't exist, but we actually saw it firsthand during COVID. All the systems were designed. What communities were the most affected by all the systems that were put in place by the Democrats?
Well, I think it's those dark-skinned people,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But
the Republicans ignore it.
Racist, so I got to say those dark-skinned people.
But I got to sneeze. Excuse me again. But the Republicans, so when you go into a place, they've been experiencing the system, and then the Republicans say there's no systemic racism, and the Black community is saying, well, yeah, there is. And that's what seems to be happening. And I think the Republicans have quickly got to start learning to address that. Yeah, there is systemic racism. And who controls the systems? The Democrats. They control each and every one of them. The education system that adversely affected the Black community, the medical system, every system in the inner city, and stuff like that.
But we're also seeing it go to the opposite side, because you are right, it's disadvantaging the Black community because it is never a good thing in the education system to discriminate against one group in order to lift up another group, right? Because you end up bringing everybody down. So when we have things like what is it called when you get in not on your merits, you get into school not on your merits, but because you're a minority, right?
Right.
What is that called? What is that? I'm
affirmative action.
Affirmative action. Thank you. That does not advantage minorities. It disadvantages them because it puts them into positions that they're not going to succeed at, or they're going to drop the standards and so it that in itself is racism, because we're saying, oh, you can't do it on your own, so we're going to help you, right? So we're looking at, say, Dr. Ben Carson, who grew up in the ghettos, who was raised by a single mother who couldn't read, forcing him and his brother to read books daily and give her book reports every week, right? And then he becomes the top brain surgeon. He didn't need affirmative action to get him there, right? We don't need things like that. And that is a system of racism, because it's saying you are a minority and you are oppressed, and so we have to help you gain advantages that you don't have. Well, if a kid from the ghetto with an illiterate mother can become the world's top brain surgeon, I don't think that that's a disadvantage necessarily. That school of hard knocks actually gave him the motivation and the ambition to pursue that, right?
Right. But, I tell people, you're not a product of your environment. You're a product of your choice.
Yep, exactly.
You have a choice. You have a father that's an alcoholic. You see what alcohol does to people. So you have a choice to follow that path or not to drink.
Exactly.
And one of the things that, let me just say it this way, because I did a live one time, and I said both parties use the Black community. And so you see the Democrats, they use them all the time to get their agenda pushed. Then you see the Republicans, every time they want to do a press conference, they want to be colorful.
Yeah. Yeah, did you see at the state convention there was a couple of our candidates, white people who got introduced by the token Black people, or like the vice versa, the Black people got introduced by the white people. It was like, I I'm pretty sure you're pretty tone deaf about this because that's not the image we're going for. You just like you pick some random people to represent you from a different color, so you have a yeah. It was
Look
so
at Paris. Go ahead, Paris.
I watched the speeches online.
Yeah.
Watched the rebroadcast or whatever like that.
yeah.
And I watched the governor candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there was only one candidate who needed their entourage on stage with them. And they had the black guy, the Hispanic woman, and it was just like, okay, stop patronizing.
Yeah.
Just
Virtue
I don't,
signaling.
I'm gonna, if I were running for office, I'm gonna have David King on the stage with me, not because he's black, he's my friend. That's just the way it is. He has me, and you know what? I'm so sick of people saying I'm colorblind. I don't see color. Bull crap.
Here's it for me. If you have me on stage, I'm speaking. If I can't speak, I ain't coming up there. I'm just.
Well, birds of a feather. You know that.
I'll be like, look, if I can't say nothing, I ain't coming. So no, you're not. And the thing about it is, for over the last year, as I travel this state, I always told people I would never tell you what you want to hear, but I'll definitely tell you what you need to hear.
Yeah.
Because I'm not that person that's going to stroke you. And I tell people this, I don't need you to like me. I need you to trust me that I am going to do exactly what I say I'm going to do. You might not like the methods, but you will love the results, right?
Yeah.
So this gentleman called me from DeForest after he heard me on Dan O'Donnell. Paris, you'll love this. He said to me, you know who you remind me of? Now, I've been going around the state telling people this. I say, have y'all ever saw the movie Lean on Me?
Nice.
And they say, yeah. I said, well, then I'm Crazy Joe because I'm crazy enough to do it, right? The guy told me, after I listened to you on Dan O'Donnell, you remind me of Joe Clark on the movie Lean on Me.
I loved that movie.
Hey, but those are the methods we need right now because you can't go thinking, well, we gotta have this budget done in 45 days, and forget the budget. We gotta put plans in action. How are we gonna do it with sex trafficking? How are we gonna deal with CRT? How are we gonna deal with SEL? How are we gonna deal with our veterans?
How are we gonna use the government as a sword against the unrighteous and as a protector for the righteous? Like that's what government is for.
Right. So how are we going to put in place things that we're going to start helping the people heal, especially Milwaukee. Milwaukee is the biggest burden on the state. The biggest burden. So if you ain't got a plan for Milwaukee,
and that's kind of, Milwaukee's going to need the state government, and it's going to be a symbiotic relationship there. It's like it or not. That's why I want Bob Donovan to get in the assembly too, because having worked in the city government for so long, he's got that. He's a great bridge to that as well. So you guys can all put your heads together. And actually, I am so sick of politicians, and this goes on both sides. Everybody wants to campaign on the issue, but nobody ever solves the issue. Crime's too high, but they do nothing to solve crime. Couldn't do it this time. I'll get it next time. I promise.
Yeah.
It's the Democrats. It's the Republicans.
Oh, I hate it when I hear somebody promise, I'm not going to raise taxes ever. I'm going to fight to end abortion. I promise you. I hate hearing that. Yet let your yes be yes and your no be no. You tell us what the issues are, and you give us a plan for it. I want a step-by-step plan for exactly how you intend on finishing the abortion issue or on fighting against the education system. I want your plan. I don't want your promises.
Here's the thing
there's
about
no
it.
plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
is why they can keep making their promises.
I was on a ministry show on Joy 1340 with two of my friends that does real ministry in the and real ministry in the city of Milwaukee, right?
Yeah.
And they said you're the only candidate that is not talking about what you're going to do. You're just going to continue to do what you've always been doing. You have a 20-year track record of doing it. So you're not just going to, you're not talking about what you're going to do. You're just talking about continue to do what you've always been doing. And he said that is what makes you different from everybody else. Everybody else is telling you what they're going to do, but you're just talking about what you have been doing and you're going to continue to do. Paris, what is GLM?
Greek lives matter, man.
Oh,
It's Saturday night. I'm kind of feisty tonight. So.
I know. I'm looking at that. I'm just talking and while I'm talking, I'm looking at your name, and then it dawned on me. GLM.
I was supposed to speak at an event, and all of a sudden Chris Lawrence, he's the one who goes, and I'd like to welcome Paris Prokopis. He's the president of Greek Lives Matter. I'm like, what the? Oh, I gotta love Chris. He's a good guy. I've known him since I was like 10 years old. Used to work with his mom, diehard Democrat, but she and I, we're still friends to this day. She loves her son, even though, she doesn't like her son's politics. But, I told her one day, I privately sent her a message and I said, you know what? Chris Lawrence, young guy, he's so well respected across the state by so many people. He works hard out there and stuff like that. And I said, I don't, you may not agree with your son's politics, but you should be proud of him. And I actually complimented her. It's like, you raised him right. And she did. And she was appreciative. But that, people have got to stop looking at people at the other side as our enemy. We got to get back to engaging. We're not engaging anymore. And I think this is why we need godly people in office that is not looking at a person as an enemy, but a person that you listen. We need to sit down, find the common goal. If our children's education is the common goal, right? So now let's sit down and figure out how do we do it. There's information. I mean, there's ideas on both sides. Let's be mature enough. Let's be mature enough, right, to go with the best idea, just long as we fix our children's education. And everybody gets a seat at the table.
Yeah, because here's the thing about it, that a friend of mine who was a Democrat. I had to laugh at that one, but who was a Democrat, and he was a man of God, and he only wanted to help the people, and that was Jason Fields. Jason Fields was a Democrat, but he'll work with anybody.
I like him.
Yeah, he would work with anybody to take care of the total man. And that's what we're supposed to be there for, to take care of the total man. We're supposed to make sure everybody is taken care of. Because you know what? Huh?
That's so chauvinistic, man.
What?
That's so chauvinistic. The man, it's like you don't like women, do you? No, I'm just kidding. I got called a misogynist because I'm not supporting Becky. It's like, oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Oh yeah, I was called a racist for not voting for Obama. Yeah, it's just I was told once that all of my political decisions are made because I'm a white woman married to a white man, and my white husband is the one who's making my political decisions for me. That was a good one.
They don't know you then.
No,
I was married for 25 years. That doesn't work that way. No.
It don't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And the thing about it is when people they look at it as, if you make a stance on something, they look at it as, well, you just soft, and you just weak, and you just indoctrinated, and you really, Paris. Okay. I forgot when you have Paris on, you gotta
Stay on your
expect
toes.
anything. Who am I? Okay. But you know, we have to look at it like this. I stand now. I've been called some names since I've been on the campaign trail. Some good ones, some bad ones. I was called the white N. I was a white N, and I'm like, oh wow, that's a new one. How could I be a white N if I'm black? I was called Uncle Tom, and I said, thank you, idiot. Read a book. Because you don't know.
That's funny. Read a book.
You don't know that. But then I got calls like the dark skinned Trump. And I kind of liked it, that one. I was like, okay. You know, they was like, you know, you sound like a dark skinned Trump. I'm like, oh, now I'm a dark skinned Trump. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say, you know, you think about Trump though too. It's like he's a heavily flawed man, and but the thing is, all he did was dare to do something different, and I think that's what they're saying about you. You're daring to do something different.
Yeah.
And
see,
all right, hey, how's it going, guy? There's someone behind you.
Oh yeah, my kids are like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna have
he's
to get
gotta make
going because
ears.
my kids need me apparently.
They need you. Well, Yoda will give you all kinds of advice.
well, wait a minute. Let me do this. Hold on before you leave.
Okay.
And then me and Paris will finish out with some fun. So I'm gonna put you on, and then you give your final spiel about August 9th.
August 9th. Okay. All right. August 9th. Vote based on the values that you hold dear. Keep God in the process. Don't separate yourself with your spiritual life from your political life, because you're going to find yourself becoming very schizophrenic. August 9th is a defining moment, but it's one of many defining moments, and it is not the end of the battle. If your person gets in, that's great. If they don't, you got to keep up the fight. Our fight does not end at the ballot box. It begins at the ballot box. And so no matter what happens on August 9th, this is our moment to not drop the ball. And it's our moment to get into our communities and get into our churches and get into our families and build those values, build our Christ worldview, and encompass everything that we are involved in our church, in our home life, in our political life, in our public life. That needs to be our clarion call. And so, yeah, August 9th is not when the battle ends. Sorry, it's when the battle begins. So you vote your conscience, you vote your values, and then you get out there and you fight.
All right.
I love the kids in the background doing the.
I know. Yeah.
Hey, but Paris, before she go, those kids will hit you with some serious questions.
Yes, they will.
All right, kids. Come on.
David,
All right,
may the force be with you.
Come on,
and also with you, and kids, remember, no matter where you go, there you are.
Awesome.
Advice. Thank you.
Good night, Mom. Good night, guys.
All right, good night.
Good night, guys. All right, I will see you gentlemen later. It was
Alrighty.
wonderful. Thank you for letting me on.
Thank you for
Nice
being
to,
on.
nice to see you.
All right, bye.
All right.
Bye-bye now. All right. So now we can cause some trouble.
Okay.
So what's Melissa saying? Yeah, she's right. You know, that's what I said. We got to re-engage. I think we've been divided, and I think it's by design. So,
All right,
you
Melissa.
there?
Thank you for tuning in. So Paris is finna go cause some trouble now. So, hey, did you see?
Did I see what?
You see, I changed my name.
What is a black man? Yeah. You're not a biologist. Yeah, there we go.
Melissa, as you're leaving, Melissa, make sure you tell everybody about me for August 9th so we can come out victorious. Thank you, and we love you.
Yeah, I just think it's, it'd be nice to have some. We've got to dare to be different. We got an opportunity, 2 non-politicians. I think that would be a great combination.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what happens, and it'll be. There's a Facebook user saying she's back or he's back. A village.
Oh, that's Rustin. Rustin love causing trouble too.
Village you speak of is not Hillary Clinton's. Oh man. But this is the way I look at it. You've been traversing the state, having all your revival meetings and stuff like that. And that's kind of over and above just campaigning for governor.
Right.
Or lieutenant governor. You're not, and that's kind of because you're out there sending the message. Actually, it's one of the things I respected about Kevin Nicholson too. He spent a couple years just going out there spreading the message of what's happening in our schools, and that was his big issue, is at the education system, CRT, all that stuff. And you want to bring, like a better word, godlike values back into our government and into our society, and it's everybody's got their role to play in all of this, but people are so ignorant out there. They don't see all this.
Is it that they don't see it, or is it that they don't want to see it?
No, you're right. It could be.
Because let's look at this. We know the issues, right? And we know the problems that is going on, and it's right in our face. And because it's right in our face, and we sit around and we just go along to get along, or we don't say the things that needs to be said, then and then when you say something that somebody else don't want you to say, now you're the bad person. And so nobody want to be the bad person. Everybody's trying to be liked, and I think that's one of our biggest problems.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm definitely not liked by some people. But you know what? I'm bringing attention to things, getting people to think outside the box. And the thing is, we got to keep going no matter what. Win, lose, or draw, we got to keep going. And we got to keep pushing forward. Everybody wants that one person who's just going to go in and just change everything all at once. And it doesn't work that way. It's going to take time. We had full power for 8 years, and look at everything that we didn't do.
Right. And so having that power, right? And not doing anything with it. And then now we asking them to give it to us again. But here's the thing. If we give Evers 4 more years, can you imagine what Wisconsin will look like in 4 more years?
It's dangerous because he's also got the chance. Let's say somebody gets old and sick in the Supreme Court.
Ooh.
Evers has the power to replace them. It has something. And right now, we've got our governor's race here, but the 2023 election season has already started. Right now we got Brian Hagedorn. He's been with us sometimes. He's not been with us sometimes. Just wait till you see what happens if we lose that Supreme Court, the next Supreme Court seat. It's Rogansack. She's a conservative. If she loses that seat, it's game over.
Okay, and since you brought that up, let me ask this question, because you're a man that be thinking, right?
I fake it, roll.
Okay, so a Supreme Court judge is there to go according to the law, right?
Right.
Not according to which side might want.
Well, right.
Right? According to the law. So what makes let's use Hagedorn. That's who you brought up, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he did it based on the law and it didn't go in the favor of conservatives, does that really make him a rhino?
No, I don't think he's a rhino.
No.
what-
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
saying. So we put these people in there. Do we really want them to go by the law, or do we just want them to go in our favor?
We want them to be our activists, I think. We don't
Right.
want an activist court, but we want. And there were a couple rulings that he had, and I because I'm a nerd, I read through some of the rulings, and a couple of them made sense. I understood his way of thinking, why he thought the way he did on a couple of the rulings. Not all of them. There were a couple where he was just dead wrong. Like the ballots. Well, it's too late. We can't add people to the when they wanted to get the Green Party back on the ballot and all that stuff. Oh, it's too late. Ballots went out. Literally 32 ballots went out. They could have replaced 32 ballots. It's not like it was the end of the world, but stuff like that is, I don't get where his head was at. Like, he doesn't want to rule on it because he doesn't want to be controversial or something. I don't know.
Well,
But
let me
but
use
yeah,
my-
you're right.
Let me use mine for an example. Remember when the Democrats, Lena Taylor and Tom Barrett, got me off the ballot for mayor?
Yeah.
And I took it to court, right? And I tried to sue the city of Milwaukee to get me back on the ballot. But according to the law, I was supposed to have Milwaukee and the city and the state on that petition that I presented to the judge. And the judge threw it out because I didn't have the state on there, right?
Right.
Now, did that judge do a bad job, or did that judge just do its job and follow the law?
I think they followed the law at that point.
Right. But I could say, oh, that judge is a Democrat, is a liberal because it did not go in my favor. No, he went according. And I understood it when they told me. The law says you had to have them both. I didn't have them both on the petition. I only had
On the one sheet.
on the one sheet. I only sued the city and not the state. But because the state had got involved, I was supposed to have them both there. But I didn't have them. I didn't have them both there. So the judge, whether they liked me or didn't like me, was not the point. The point of the matter is they had to go by the law itself. And sometimes the law itself doesn't swing to either side. It's like stays in the middle. But we get mad at people if they go against what they want.
Well, there are some times where they skirt the law too. They interpret the law to be something. I mean, we talked about it earlier, Roe versus Wade. A classic example of seeing something that wasn't there. That wasn't according to the law or according to the Constitution. That was according to whatever rationale they used to create Roe v. Wade, or to affirm Roe v. Wade in the first place back in the 70s.
Right.
And in Justice Alito and the conservatives who overturned Roe versus Wade, all they did was just say it's bad law. Even Ginsburg said it was bad law. It's bad law. We're going to put it back in the hands of the states.
Right.
And all these, people think, hey, Roe v. Wade's over. We're not going to have abortion anymore. And that doesn't mean that. The fight goes on.
Yeah. All they saying is we overreach. We're giving it back to you guys. Now you guys fight over it. And the thing about it is, it's like, oh my God, this was the worst thing. No, the fight just beginning. Because why? Trust me, them Democrats are going there, put that on their agenda to say, vote us in and we'll make abortion legal again.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be an ongoing seesaw. It always is. And I mean, just with everything, the nation goes ebbs and flows. I mentioned that earlier. It's, we got to get our federal government back to a point where they actually legislate again. They don't legislate. Everything is done by executive order.
Right.
Obama did executive order. All Trump had to do was overturn Obama's executive orders, and suddenly we had prosperity. And then Biden went in and overturned Trump's executive orders. And then we're paying this back and forth every time it changes power. It's like our system is.
So let me ask you this question.
Mhm.
What is it going to take for us to unite after August 9th?
A lot of self-reflection, and I'm kind of emotional too, because I've been very aggressively attacked by some on the Kleefish team and the Kleefish supporters because I dared to say something that was an issue. But everything I've ever written, I backed up with fact. I've never just said, oh yeah, Kleefish drives a minivan. I don't like people who drive minivans, whatever, or anything like that. There was never any personal attacks. So yeah, the emotional side of me wants to say
somebody said you a dead ringer of Scott Walker.
No bald spot.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Scott. That's Scott up
Yeah.
in Portage County. He's running for mayor. Sheriff up there.
Yeah, I was disappointed when Jessica McBride did an article when she met with Scott Walker, and Scott Walker names names. Well, apparently he didn't name me, and I was a stunt double for 8 years. I was disappointed, but but there we go, and there. Okay, but I don't have a bald spot. I'm good, but yeah. But in the end, the emotional side of me wants to say, screw it. I'm not going to vote for her. She doesn't deserve my vote. Blah 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 blah. But you know what? I'm going to be a grown up. I'm going to suck it up, and I'm going to vote for her. I wasn't thrilled about John McCain. I sucked it up and I vote for it. And there have been times when I changed my mind, or when I didn't. Bob Dole was running for president. I voted for Bill Clinton that year. It's like sometimes it's better to stick with the devil, because I was like, he would have been useless as president. I don't know. But, I was younger and I made some mistakes, but whatever. But I'm not going to put the power back in the hands of the Democrats, mainly because there are no reasonable Democrats right now who have power. They're all the extreme.
Yeah.
And Joe Manchin's not the extreme, but in the end, they're all lockstep. And I'm not going to give them the power. Nothing justifies it. Nothing justifies Tony Evers. Nothing justifies Mandela Barnes or whoever is going to be lieutenant governor. If they were able to pull it off.
I believe it might be Rodriguez coming out of the Democrat side.
Okay. Yeah, which is really
we do got to do self-reflection, and we got to look at ourselves, and we got to say, okay, rule is we just can't give in to them. Period.
Yep. And
that's the bottom
people,
line.
Yeah, and was there voter fraud in 2020? Probably. Are we going to be able to find out which ballots were the fake ones? No, because once they're in the machine, it's too late. But that doesn't mean we should come out and vote, because you got too many people are going to say, well, they're going to screw us anyway. Why bother voting? Okay, they have already won then. That's how they're going to win. So, I mean, we get a lot of that going on too, where people just aren't even going to bother.
Yeah. And so, the thing that we have to look at, we got to, because just like even at the Trump rally, I heard one of the so-called patriots got detained. I don't know if he got arrested, detained though, because he didn't want to go along with the rules.
Oh, at the rally?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It might have happened before I got there. I got there around 5:30. I was running really late. But they, I heard about that. I think I said this, where the Ramthun people weren't allowed to wear their shirts, and they were going to try to protest and boo Donald Trump. And excuse me, but it was a Trump Michaels event. That's the rules. Deal with it. But Stacey says, "Gee, I wonder who." I have a
But
feeling I know who's.
it was interesting because you had candidates that told Trump to stay out of Wisconsin politics,
Mhm.
that said he made a bad decision choosing Michaels. These are candidates now.
Mhm.
But guess what? They got pictures of them at the rally. And they were supposed to be part of the dream team.
I'm not sure who you're referring to.
Huh? Wickman.
Oh yeah, yeah, I saw him there.
So he said Trump made a mistake. Trump needs to stay out of Wisconsin politics. He don't know what he's doing picking people, because the dream team is the one that's supposed to win. And you at a rally that you're against the person who's doing the rally.
You got to be where the people are at, I guess.
I guess.
And
But the thing about it is, the if you standing on something, stand on it. When I said that I would not be a part of the when I said I would not
the
be
convention?
a part of the endorsement process, I did exactly that. I was even asked, did I wanted to speak at the convention? And I said no. I said I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm not going to be. County chairmen came up to me and said, all you have to do is tell us, we can get you to speak. Nope, I don't want to speak. If I tell you I'm going to stand on something, I'm going to stand on it. And I'm not going to not stand on it, because I would have went against what I believe. If I would have went and spoke anyway, I would have went against what I believe. And I gotta, if I'm gonna say something, I gotta do exactly what I'm gonna say. I can't say one thing and do something else and then try to justify why I do it.
right.
So
Oh no, I respect that, and I think people will see through that stuff in the end. I hope. I guess we'll find out on Tuesday how it's all going to transpire. There's a bunch of races that I've got concerns over. The Attorney General's race really bothers me. It's a tough race.
That one is interesting.
Eric Toney, he's got all this prosecution experience and everything, but early on, he was a COVID enforcer.
Right.
I understand, me understanding how government works. There was an emergency order. I get it. But most people aren't going to look at that. They're going to say he was a COVID enforcer. So even if he wins the primary, they're going to say he was a COVID enforcer. I'm not voting for him. So then we're stuck with the clown in there right now for another 4 years.
Right.
So then you go back to Jarko. Jarko's a legislator. Doesn't have the best track record. He's got his own baggage. He does support the legalization of pot. And for medicinal reasons, I would support it. I'm not, but I think it has to be tempered with common sense. There's a lot of, Colorado's having a lot of problems because they legalized pot, stuff like that. And people have got to stop talking about how harmless marijuana is. That's a blatant lie. Yeah, it's natural. It comes from the earth and stuff like that. But first of all, you got these people lacing it with fentanyl and all the other crap. So you don't know if it's going to kill you. But all that aside, it is a gateway drug. And it is. How many people are driving high right now? They're getting in accidents and dying because they're high. It's just like booze.
Right. And
I have an issue with that.
So the you look at the attorney, you look at the AG race, you look at the treasurer race, you look at the Secretary of State race, and I listened to some of the Secretary of State candidates. They don't know. They can't do anything. They sitting here lying to people what they gonna do. You ain't even authorized to do those things.
Yeah, because none of that will happen unless they change the office,
Right. So
which
you
we
listen.
had the power to do.
So you look at it and says, okay, now this is what we got. This is what we're gonna do. Are you serious? Are you really going to? You got to put these people in office. One AG candidate. I was at an event. I asked a question about the back crime lab, right, with all DNA and all of that, and they said, well, I'm gonna need money to do that. That's part of the job. Money is already there.
They
So
both
if you
said
don't,
that.
huh?
They both said that.
No,
all-
one of them said it.
Which one?
I'm not saying until after the primary. But
I need to know who said that. Oh man, that's
so
just ignorant.
so you know, I mean, and even with the, I mean, you listen to what people are saying, you know, and you're sitting there like, wow, you got, okay, for example, you got one of the lieutenant governor candidates. I'm not gonna say who it is, but they're only talking about the Federal Reserve. You ain't got no authority over the Federal Reserve.
That's federal.
But because they also know that most people don't know that, right? So they're using it. And you sitting there like, dude, you really talking about the Federal Reserve? You really talking about the Federal Reserve and the bank book that the Federal Reserve have? Like trying to make people think you really that smart? But you have to understand, there is no constitutional duty for the lieutenant governor to deal with the Federal Reserve.
Well, it was like, remember the first governor's debate on Channel 4 when they asked the question of Tim Michaels about DECA, which I actually thought they said DECA, the vocational program, because they were talking about vocation, and my brother was in that program, so I thought. But anyway, DECA, you know, that's a federal issue. It's not a governor's issue. Yeah, there are people out, you know, there are dreamers here in Wisconsin, but that's all managed through the federal government. That's not even a role of the governor. But yeah, of course, you know, it was a gotcha question. All the questions that night, I don't care, you know, whoever you supported, the questions that night were just horrible.
Right. And so, you know, so when we look at it, we got to look down the ticket and we got to look at who to vote for. We got to look at who's the strongest, because those things, and I try to get people to see, is the things that we say to the choir, you're not going to be able to say to the other side. It's not going to fly with the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So if your message is not resonating for all the people, it's not going to happen.
And I think for statewide offices, a staunch, hardline conservative message will not get you a victory in a purple state. You need crossover appeal.
Right.
And I'm not saying sacrifice your internal principles, but there are parts of our principles that can overlap. There is common ground if people would just shut up and listen. You know, there is common ground with the other side. And I wrote an article about that recently where I talked about like the cancel culture. You know, the liberals are canceling conservatives, you know, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. Okay, the conservatives are retaliating. They're canceling the liberals and stuff like that. Now suddenly we have Truth Social and Parler and all these other social media platforms where people aren't engaging with each other anymore. So everybody's going into the echo chamber so they can hear what they want to hear. But they're not. Okay, what good is this conservative message if the people who need to hear it don't hear it?
Right.
We need to get re-engaged because they divided us on purpose. This is by design.
Oh yeah, it is. And the thing about it is, you know, I think that a lot of people, you know, a lot of people are they're trying to get engaged now. They're trying to be involved. They're trying to play catch up and learning everything that's out there, you know. And so in that process, right? There are going to be some errors. There are going to be some mistakes, you know.
I'm sorry. I'm just having fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Tony Evers here with us.
Well, I tell you how excited I am about the next election. Okay, sorry. Just
but when we realize when Candace Owens was here, she made a statement that a lot of us don't pay attention to. Because when we say conservative, there's also conservatives, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got conservatives that believe it. You got conservative that says stop spending money we don't have, right? But they also pro-choice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. You got conservatives say stop spending money we don't have, but they're part of the LGBTQ. And then you got your Christian conservatives. So you got all these different types of conservatives, just like you got all the different types of Republicans and all the different types of Democrats. Because you got the Democrats, you got the moderate Democrats, now you got the Democrat Socialists of America.
But the problem with the Democrats is they're all lockstep in one mindset. They're like I don't know if you remember the Moonies, you know, everybody's brainwashed. This is how you think. If you don't, you're cast out of the village, so to speak. Where the conservatives, we're kind of more big tent. We have a lot more factions. But unfortunately, a lot of people are trying to get us to be that one lockstep mindset as well, which I think that's a dangerous position to be in. Our own version of Big Brother.
Oh.
And I might actually write about that. You know, it's you know, if you don't think exactly as I do, I'm going to cancel you.
Right.
You know,
and if you don't sing our song,
right.
And I try to tell people, we're singing the same song. The problem is we got different beats and different rhythms.
Exactly. We gotta get each other on, find out where those beats come together and find that common ground. It's there, but nobody's looking for it because everybody's so damn stubborn.
I remember when I played basketball for the Catholics, for the Catholic Church, I played in the CYO. And one of the requirements is we had to go to church on Sunday. We had to go to mass. So we sitting in mass and they're singing, Amen, Amen. Right? So we sitting there hearing that. So we're the basketball team. So we spiced it up. Amen. And they looking at us like, what are y'all doing? we singing the same song y'all singing. You know, we just put a little, and that's, and I think that's what's wrong with the party right now. If you don't sing it the way they sing it, then you the bad person. Instead of saying, this person bringing a new beat to it. Maybe we ought to listen to it for a minute.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think people got to open their eyes and realize there are some other drums out there, so to speak. I mean, I saw you were mentioning that. A friend of mine, his mother had passed away. He grew up in the South Side of Chicago, and you know, I'm not a biologist, but I think he might be black. I don't know, but he was Southern Baptist, and he had that. I'd never been to a Baptist church in my life. You know, I grew up Greek Orthodox, and then growing up in the Southwest, I had some experience with the Catholics, and then my ex-wife was Lutheran. So, you know, that was my exposure. Well, I went in there, and his mom had passed away, and it was like culture shock, not because of, of ethnicity or anything like that, but it was like, that was the happiest funeral I've ever been at. It was like, because they were celebrating the homegoing, it was like,
Right.
because I'm happy. They're with God now. They're with Jesus, that kind of thing. And it was just, I never experienced that, because in the Greek Orthodox faith, it's much more somber, much more, it's like, wow. It's like, I could get used to this. I was just like, but you mentioned a different drummer. It gave me a whole different perspective. Why? Because I experienced it. People need to experience it.
Yeah.
So that's why you got to engage.
Right. And I tell people, I say, listen, while they beating the bass, I'm beating the snare. But we can make beautiful music together if they accept my snare as much as I accept their bass.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how it is.
It is how it is.
Oh, look at Stacy. Stacy gonna say.
That's somebody. I don't know. I want everybody sad because they're gonna miss me. No,
I know. So, well, dang, it's been okay. It had been 3 hours. I'm going to bed.
Damn. All right. Well, thank you for having me on.
Oh man, anytime. I wish Ian would have stayed on. We could have got in some serious trouble. But
yeah,
no,
he was
we
having
can't get in trouble until after the election. So
exactly. So it'd be November. But you know what? And it's little things like this. Just stay engaged. Everybody's got to stay engaged. Talk to people.
So I'm gonna put you on the screen. Give your final thoughts about August 9th and us coming back together, unified, and then we'll close the show.
Yes, this has been a very emotional time for our election process. It's gotten a little, having some bad problems here with the camera. Anyway, it's gotten a little heated, but that's what primaries are for. They're needed. We need to see what our candidates are made of. I think it's important you vet all candidates and you challenge them, so that way they are ready for the onslaught that's going to come from the other side. They're going to attack our candidate, whoever it is. It doesn't matter. They're going to go after them, and they're going to spend a ton of money. So I recommend you look at the candidates, trust your gut on who can actually win against Tony Evers, who can actually win against whomever the Democrat is going to be for lieutenant governor, and who's actually going to be able to affect change. Look at track records. What did we do last time we had power, that type of thing. I think it's important. In the end, the winner, I'll support the winner. I'm supporting Tim Michels. I'm being straight out with that. And I think a number of factors. I think he can get stuff done. I love business experience, and President Trump has proven that someone with business experience thinks about things differently. And that's important. Just like David King, he's got his business experience. He's got his theological experience as well, and that type of thing. You think about things differently, and that's what we have to do. We have to do things differently. So that way we get things like Donald Trump's criminal justice reform. He did something different. There were a lot of conservatives who didn't like it. Oh, it's too easy and stuff like that. But it was different. It opened up some doors for people to regain their lives and stuff like that. So I think it's important. But anyway, we've got to do this. We've got to be able to affect change, and we can't affect change without having power. And so we got to win. That's all that matters. Get out and vote on Tuesday, and make sure that before you go vote, you consume plenty of fiber. This way there's no voter irregularity.
I was just wondering. I knew you was going to throw that in there.
I have to. It's important. But thank you for having me on, and check out newsundone.com.
Yes. Make sure y'all, if you ever bored and you just want to see comments and everything, go to Paris page, watch his videos, watch his comments, watch his articles. That if you just really bored and you want to see some excitement, just go watch his stuff, and I guarantee you. And Ian is the same way. Go on TikTok. Look at his TikTok. I'm telling you, it will make you think. And so August 9th is 3 days away. We got to put the best of the best up to go against the Democrats to make Evers a one-term governor.
Yeah, we got to save Ron Johnson too, because
Yes,
he's our standard bearer now.
and so we gotta make sure that whatever we do, Ron Johnson is not a guarantee right now. Not the way they playing.
It's
He's
an uphill
not a
climb.
guarantee. We like him, but the reality is they're playing for keeps. They know what's at stake. And they're looking for a blue wave. That's what they want. And so we got to do our part to make sure we got strong candidates that can even help push him over the top and keep him as a senator. But if you got a team that's coming out on the 9th that neither one of them neither one is how should I say this?
Up to the
Can't
task.
bring nothing, huh?
Up to the task.
Up to the task or bring anything themselves to the table, then we in trouble.
Yeah.
Everybody got to be able to bring something to the table to make a united front. You can't hope that you're going to win because you pick somebody for governor and the lieutenant governor just going to ride on that coattail. It's not going to happen. The lieutenant governor has to bring something to the table that is going to resonate with the people so that we can get those middle votes, those independents, even some libertarians and some Green Party, as well as the moderate Democrats.
Yeah,
And
the
we
blue
gotta
collar
have-
Democrats.
Huh?
The blue collar Democrats.
Yes. So if we don't have that, then we can forget it. So
Yeah. And something to
guys-
consider is who's going to have the resources to actually wage that fight. It's important.
Yes.
Look at who has money left and who will have the money to be able to take them on. Because they're estimating it's going to be like $300 million that the Democrats are going to throw into the state. They want Ron Johnson bad.
So that's something that we have to realize. And as one of my good friends used to always say, if you're not at the table, you own the menu. So
I never heard that before. I like that.
So we cannot afford to be on the menu anymore. We have to be at the table. So on Monday, let me say this before we close. Monday, we have a Wisconsin Revival Rally in the heart of Milwaukee at a church. It's called the Lord's Way International, 925 West Burleigh. We're going to be in the heart of Milwaukee. All pastors are speaking. Pastor Jason Storm is speaking. Pastor Elaine McCarthy is speaking. My wife is going to speak, or she's going to MC it. Apostle Larry Shaw is going to be speaking. So we have pastors that's going to be speaking. And it's all about us coming together and doing what's right from a spiritual perspective and firing up the base to get up early Tuesday morning and go out and vote. So you guys join us this Monday, August 8th. Doors open up at 6. You don't have to worry about being afraid. You're going to be very well protected. And come and enjoy yourself. August the 8th. And
Right.
Per's going to come and sing for us.
Well, you don't let me MC anymore because they take over.
I light up like a Roman counter when I walk into a church. So you guys, we thank you guys. And we will be, the victory party will be at O'Donoghue's Irish Pub in Elm Grove, on 100 and something, hold on, in Watertown Plank Road.
Yeah, it's Watertown Plank, and right in the main downtown of Elm Grove.
Right.
They
The
can't
address
miss
is 13225 Watertown Plank Road, Elm Grove, Wisconsin. That's where we're going to be, at O'Donoghue Irish Pub. That's where we're going to be on the 9th, waiting on the numbers to come in, celebrating and thanking God for the victory, because we're going to come out on top. And we just thank everybody, all the supporters, everybody that's working hard, everybody is ready to see God and God's principle back in politics. We thank you guys. Follow Paris. He got 3 days to get on people's nerve, and I'm sure he's going to do that very well. Because if he doesn't, then he's sick. Then he got corona if he don't do it. That's what he does. So we thank you for being with us. We thank the Constitutional Queen Sarah being with us as well. Until next time, guys, God bless, and talk to you soon.